This is our National HRD Network Code of Conduct, and before we start any event, we read this out. Can we have the slide, please? Uh, I will say, and I request you to repeat after me. I will always strive to meet the highest evolving standards of competence in the profession and add value to organizational success. I will deal with all stakeholders with utmost integrity and create an environment of trust, leading to ethical success of my organization. I will ensure that I am always reliable and consistent in all my actions by accepting responsibility for my decisions and actions, thereby creating credibility for my profession and myself. I will be objective in all my actions and decisions and foster fairness with firmness. I will conduct myself in a way that facilitates growth and development of all those I am responsible for. I will strive to be a role model for all others and champion exemplary practice of the HR profession. I will respect the rights of privacy, will not use my position for personal gains, and ensure that there is no conflict of interest in what I do with any of my stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Aman sir. Please be seated. Well, all HR professionals are supposed to follow this code of conduct for the lifetime. Now, may I request the dignitaries to please come on the stage for lighting of auspicious lamp. May I invite Professor Paramanandan, Dr. Biju Pillai, Aman Rajabali, Dhananjay Singh, Bharat Waklu, and Anand Khote to please come on the stage for lighting of the lamp.
Recording in progress.
Nahi, lighting.
May I request Ms. Janani Prakash, member of our board Young Talent Council, to join us on this stage, please.
so much. I request all the dignitaries to please grace the stage on the couch. Yes, sir. An organization's ability to learn and translate that learning into action rapidly is the ultimate competitive advantage. In this era of continuous evolution, it is imperative for corporate and individuals to learn, unlearn, and relearn the way they run their businesses and their own ways of working. Over the next decade, the world at large is expected to face unprecedented changes in the definitions and expectations held over every role as we adapt to the rapidly evolving needs of businesses. COVID era has proved this best that archaic ways of working did not last long. Learning and development strategies are influencing major aspect of this transition. To define competitive advantage and to ensure survival, organizations need to learn as they restart, refresh, and re-energize the way they learn, grow, and evolve. The onus to enable a seamless evolution rests not only on CHROs, CEOs, CLOs, L&D leaders, HR practitioners, talent leaders, but on the talent themselves. The 7th National L&D Summit 2022, brought to you by NHRD Pune chapter, aims at drawing attention to this link between who we are and where we want to be, through several perspectives and enablers to build a workforce driven by L&D practices and futuristic. Through this summit, we aim to inspire and enable the vision of an evolved workforce led by empowered leaders and a future-ready workforce who together build a world that accepts and adopts all perspectives. To propose a welcome note, I would be requesting Mr. Aman Rajabali on the stage. Aman Rajabali is a proud founder of Kabir Profile Solutions, a reputed consulting company for more than 2 decades, offering a wide range of HR solutions with special emphasis on executive search, people management advisory services, coaching, counseling, and training, so forth in India and abroad. Kabir Profile Solutions specializes in L&D initiatives, revamping or upgrading of HR processes and systems, preparing manuals, formulating and re-articulating policies, etc. And above all, Aman is involved in NHRD activities for more than 20 years, contributing to the development of Pune chapter, who is considered to be one of the best chapters of NHRD and the face of NHRD Pune. And currently, Aman is holding the president position of NHRD Pune chapter, the thought and the man behind today's 7th National L&D Summit. May I please invite passionate people connector, a warm and compassionate individual, and a laissez-faire leader, Aman, to welcome the guests, dignitaries, and delegates. Aman, sir, please.
आज सुबह का मंजर भी कयामत सा हसीन है। ठंडी हवा, हल्की धूप, नरम फिजाएं और आसमान में हमारी ख्वाहिशों की उड़ान। नमस्कार, नमस्कार, आदाब, सत श्री अकाल, वणक्कम, केम छो। It's such a pleasure to be here. LND आप लोग कम बात करें तो थोड़ा डिस्टर्ब नहीं हो। थैंक यू जी। The LND summit, this is the second time we are hosting. The first time we hosted in 2020, 4th of March to be precise. और उसके बाद पैंडेमिक हो गया, बट दिस टाइम आई प्रॉमिस यू ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं होगा। हमने ऊपर बात कर ली है, सो डोंट यू वरी, यू नो। सो आई डोंट नो, आई एम सो ओवरवेल्म्ड कि क्या मैं कहूँ। बातें तो बहुत करनी है, बहुत कुछ बताना है। द वे वी स्टार्टेड ऑफ, we've been fortunate that we have the unflinching support of the entire Balaji University, and we have Biju sir here, who's always been with us all the time, whatever we needed. Okay, so thank you so much, sir. When we decided to have, at National HRD Network, thoda sa background deta hu. We, all the chapters have a mandate to organize couple of programs which is at national level. And last year we did 2 programs, LND tha, and then we did on DNI, which we called Samaveshan. And this year again, we got a mandate from HO that we do the LND summit, and we grabbed it obviously because we wanted to, and LND is very close to our heart, and as all of you know, that it's very critical function. This has been a very roller coaster ride. When we started off, it seemed that, you know, the moment we decided ki hum karenge, we catapulted ourselves to Imagica, and, you know, we did all sorts of rides that we had. But it's been a wonderful journey, and I'm so glad that the entire team is here. बहुत कुछ ऊपर नीचे हुआ, pull pushes came, but we are glad that finally we were able to pull through, and now we are enjoying the day. हमारे मेहनत का फल अच्छा रहा है, हाँ. So I have also been instructed, each time I come on stage, I am given a piece of paper कि भैया ये पढ़ना, but as my habit is, I don't read. But this time I have been instructed, नहीं पढ़ोगे तो penalize होगा. So I am going to read out quite a few things. This page has come to me from Chennai. Okay. But जैसे मैं कह रहा था कि we started off doing a lot of things, wanted to share quite a few things, but समय की कमी है. I've been given only 5 minutes. जैसे कहा जाता है ना कि कुछ बातों को कैद कर लीजिए अपनी यादों में, वरना सब राज की बात तो शायर भी नहीं बताता. So I will leave all the background work that we've done. Ultimately that you guys are here. Thank you so much. My heartfelt gratitude to Bharat Waklu. He readily agreed to grace and share his knowledge, thoughts with us. The moment Dhananjay bhai ne unse baat ki, and then we spoke, and he agreed, we were very happy, elated कि वो आ रहे हैं हमारे साथ में यहाँ पे. And the moment we circulated the flyer, आपका नाम जैसे ही लोगों को मिला, immediately I started receiving so many WhatsApp messages, and people were so delighted. You know, अरे वो आ रहे हैं, very good. You know, he's such a learned man, and he's a good speaker. और बहुत अच्छा हुआ, and you know, NHRD के लिए फायदा होगा. उनसे guidance लीजिए. So lot of, I'm so glad that you're well known, and आप आए यहाँ पे. Thank you so much. We have हमारे Director General साहब हैं, हमारे भाई धनंजय सिंह. He's come from Delhi. इसी प्रोग्राम के लिए. And then we have one gentleman sitting there, Nalin Srivastava. वो दोनों they handle the entire all the chapters across. Jack Welch जो है उन्होंने एक बार कहा था that an organization's ability to learn and translate that learning into action rapidly is the ultimate competitive advantage. इसको मद्देनजर रखते हुए we curated the entire L&D summit. This holds not true just for organizations, but for every one of us navigating through the unprecedented changes surrounding us every day. This summit aims at drawing attention to the link between who we are and where we want to be through several perspectives and enablers to build a workforce driven by futuristic L&D practices. Through this summit, we aim to inspire and enable the vision of an evolved workforce led by empowered leaders and a future-ready workforce who together build a world that accepts and adopts all perspectives and more. ये है, तो that is why our theme is L&D reinvented, restart, refresh, and re-energize. Okay. A simple act of kindness creates endless ripples, कहा जाता है. And the kindness and the initiative, the enthusiasm, the okay, नहीं हम आ रहे हैं ये, all the speakers, आप सभी लोगों को special thank you and pranam. Your involvement in this summit will have a major impact, believe me, and the learning that our audience will get. By the way, this is being streamed live on Facebook and on YouTube. Yeah, so you might want to send across messages to your friends if they want to go through. Okay. Again, I would like to thank all of you for coming here on a Saturday morning. Balaji University and all our speakers. Bharat, once again, thank you. There are a lot of students sitting there. तो जाते जाते दो पंक्तियां आप लोगों के लिए कह के जाऊंगा, शायद आपको काम आ जाए. ताकत की जरूरत तभी होती है जब कुछ बुरा करना हो. ताकत की जरूरत तभी होती है जब कुछ बुरा करना हो, वरना दुनिया में सब कुछ पाने के लिए सिर्फ प्यार ही काफी है. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, participants, dear students, and all those people who are watching us live, enjoy the entire summit, make the most of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanji, for that poetic and witty welcome address. Now I request Dr. Biju Pillai, who's Director, Balaji Institute of International Business, BIIB, Senior Director, IT and Admissions, Dean, Faculty of Management, Sri Balaji University, Pune. May I please invite the cheerful, motivating and inclusive leader, Dr. Biju Pillai, to please deliver the welcome address.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the kind introduction. Friends, all of you are sitting over here, especially delegates and guests. You must be knowing NHRD very well, but you may not be knowing SBUP. So I'll take only 2 to 3 minutes to introduce organization which I belongs to. Sri Balaji Society started in the year 1998 from a 450 square feet rented accommodation. Only one man, Professor Colonel A. Balasubramaniam. And today, this year is our 25th Silver Jubilee celebration we are going to have. Unfortunately, the man behind this huge success is not with us physically, but he is around us. Now, on 25th years, I must tell you, we have around 450 people working with us. Every year, around 900 students are passing out from 4 different institutions: Balaji Institute of Modern Management, Balaji Institute of Technology and Management, Balaji Institute of International Business, Balaji Institute of Management and Human Resource Management, Human Development. It's a mini India with an average package of around 8 to 9 lakh rupees. Every year, 900 students are passing out. We have an arts and commerce college, we have a law college. We have our undergraduate program also in the university, BBA, BCA, BA, and MCA as well. We have bigger plan to go further. This is a budding university. Very recently in the year 2018, Sri Balaji University has been received the status of, sorry, Balaji Society has been received the status of Sri Balaji University. Now, when it comes to the relationship with the NHRD, our founder, Bala sir, was always, he was a thorough HR person. He was having a strong relationship with the National HRD network, not only in Pune, but in the national level as well. We have associated with many of the events of National HRD network, and I'm grateful to all the National HRD network past presidents as a present president for giving that kind of opportunity to Sri Balaji University. Today, what we are doing is nothing but what our founder has started with. Our job is to just to continue further. Very recently, few months before, NHRD Pune chapter has signed an MOU with Sri Balaji University. Many times it happens, MOUs are getting signed and it over there itself. So this is a 2-year MOU which have signed, and this is the first initiative today. What is happening in this auditorium is the first initiative on the basis of that, that MOU. I take this opportunity to welcome all the delegates on behalf of my Pro-Chancellor, Paramanandan Balasubramaniam, and my Vice Chancellor, Dr. G.K. Shurude, and my staff members, students. On their behalf, I take this opportunity to welcome all of you to Sri Balaji University. I also welcome Mr. Bharat Baklu, the chief guest of the day, and Mr. Dhananjay Singh, Aman Rajbali, and Nalin Srivastavaji. Nalinji was here for last so many days. He was a part of our team. I'm not distinguishing between Sri Balaji University and NHRD. That is why I'm using our team. I'm aware that today, Dr. S.P. Nathan sir also going to address us. Nathan sir is a family member as far as Sri Balaji University is concerned. But at this occasion, officially, I welcome him also to this grand function. With this, once again, I welcome all of you to Sri Balaji University. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Biju, sir. We are very proud to be sitting in Sri Balaji University's campus. We have Mr. S.V. Nathan, who is connected with us on Zoom. So I'll be introducing the inaugural speaker, Mr. S.V. Nathan. Mr. Nathan is a partner and chief talent officer of Deloitte India. He is a member of the India leadership team and serves on the talent executive leadership of Deloitte Asia Pacific. Nathan has over 35 years of experience in HR management across diverse industries, including manufacturing, services, telecom, IT, and professional services. He has a vast experience in building and leading high-performance teams in both multinational and Indian organizations. A respected voice of the HR profession in India, Nathan speaks regularly at several national and global forums on contemporary HR matters. He has been recognized as a distinguished alumnus by XLRI by his alma mater. He was a topper of his batch. Nathan has been acknowledged as one of the top voices of LinkedIn 2020. He has been awarded as Lifetime Achievement Award 2021 by Economic Times and Business People and many more. He currently serves as the National President of National Human Resource Development Network, the largest body of HR professionals in the country. He served as the chairman of Sumedhas, a not-for-profit education and research body devoted to organization development. Nathan is on the advisory body of Economic Times, and which is a leading newspaper devoted to economic matters. Nathan is a regular blogger, an HR power influencer on LinkedIn and Twitter, and has an active presence on social media and is well known for his hashtag Office Truths posts on LinkedIn. May we welcome S.V. Nathan sir with a big round of applause.
Good morning to all of you. First of all, I want to thank each and every one of you today on a very bright and, as Aman puts it in his very lovely, shayari way, a fantastic day. And to choose this day to come and listen to a slew of speakers in a wonderful setting as the Balaji University is a matter of great privilege, pride, and of course, an experience. I wish I had been there in person. Unfortunately, I had been booked earlier, and now I'm here in happy Hyderabad. And in a few minutes, I have to be on stage as well. Balaji University is very, very special to me. And this morning, as I opened up my laptop in readiness for this particular session, I saw Bala sir with all his pagdi. And there was a tug in my heart. What a man, what an institution he has built. And for Sri Anand and others to take it forward. So, Mr. Biju, Dr. Biju, correction. Thank you so much for the opportunity and all your kind words. What can I say? I think this day is important because the 7th summit of L&D learning is happening in Pune. Why is this so special? For many reasons. I think the future of any organization lies in learning. What happened yesterday is past. The shelf life or the half-life, as they say, the half-life of learning is now almost 6 months for skills. Can you imagine what it would be for us who believe that we have to keep up? So it's almost like you have to run really fast to stay in the same place. Organizations of tomorrow have but only one thing to do, which is to see what we can do for learning. How can we evolve as a person who goes through all kinds of person training to perhaps one on a digital platform? What happens in a hybrid world? What happens when you move from one particular job to another particular job and you have no idea how to do that? Sometimes all we have to do is prioritize, looking at all our skills that we have. And by the way, we don't have all the answers. As practitioners, people who have been in the industry for a very, very long time, sometimes I feel so inadequate. And I'm in amazement of the people who have, forget the requisite skills and knowledge, just the sheer energy and the will to do much more. And I ask myself, can I ever even match to about 2% of what they have? Obviously, they're doing something right. They're reinventing themselves. So in this era, what is the new reinvention for ourselves? Do we look at gamification? Do we look at automation? Do we look at digital learning? Perhaps we can look at learning from others, loosely called social learning. What can we really do about deep learning? And there are a lot of new things like neural networks, reinforcement learning, and the like. Sometimes just the pedagogy and the andragogy versus what we now have, neurogogy, just baffles me. Currently, we've always believed that learning is through doing. Is that correct? I don't know. Some of the big answers that we have are inadequate to respond to the questions of tomorrow today. What are the most significant driving factors of making these learning work for tomorrow? None of this is in isolation. Once upon a time, we used to say we mandate so many hours of learning. Today, we don't do that. If you do not learn, you do not survive. But the one learning that I'm going to be speaking to you today is perhaps, and I'll come to that, is through a story. So, it so happened that there were 3 people who came to a king dragging a young man and said, "Oh king, this man has murdered a father." hey, why did you kill their father? King, I'm a goat herd. My goat ate from the father's farm and he threw a stone at my goat and the goat died. So I took the stone and threw it at the father, and unfortunately, the person died. Aha, you killed a man. And because of this, I pass a judgment on you on charge of murder by sentencing you to death. The young man froze. He said, King, I accept what you say. All I ask for is for 3 days before you execute the judgment. My late father left me some wealth. I have a sister to take care of. If you kill me now, my wealth and my sister will have no guardian. So I want to go back to the village, appoint a guardian, let my sister know, and I will come back. What is the guarantee that you will come back? I have some person who could possibly stand as bail for me. Who will stand for you? And suddenly in that crowd was a young man who said, I will stand for this gentleman. You really want to stand in for him? Yes, sir. I will stand in for him. I accept. The young man left. He knew that he had only 3 days, because on the third day, if he does not come, then it will happen that the person who stood in as bail for him will die. First day happened, nothing happened. Second day, on the third day, there was still no sight of the young man. Everybody was afraid of the person who stood bail. The village had gathered. And the man who stood bail was ready to accept the penalty of death. Just before sundown, the person who was the goat herd came running, looking very exhausted, stood in front of the king and said, Sir King, I'm here. I've handed my wealth and welfare of my sister to my uncle. I am here to receive the penalty of death. You may execute me now. In great shock and surprise, the king said, why did you return? Because you had a chance to escape the death penalty. The young man said, I was afraid that if I did not appear, humanity has lost its integrity and the ability to fulfill somebody's promise that was kept. And that's why I came back. Why did you stand for him? He asked the person who stood bail. He says, I was afraid that humanity would have lost the will to do some good for others. That's the reason why I stood up. These words moved the complainant. The brothers who were asking for death for this person said, I forgive this young man because we do not want death for him. The king was so annoyed with the brothers because the goat herd had killed their father. The king said, why? And the brothers said, we are afraid that it will appear as though forgiveness has lost its place in the heart of humanity. To all of you in the room and beyond, I'm sharing this beautiful message and passing it to you, that it appears, that it reminds us that goodness has a place in our hearts. Goodness has a place in our hearts. And all that we have to learn today, beyond all we will learn today through the 7th summit of L&D is, can we learn a little bit about humanity? And on that note, I must thank all of you and hope you have a fantastic day ahead of you. Thank you so much for your patience. And with that, back to you, dear organizers.
Thank you, Mr. Nathan, sir, for stressing on deep learning in changing and new normal situations and connecting with us from Hyderabad. Thank you so much. We have on stage a guest, Mr. Bharat Wakhlu. I'm honored to introduce Mr. Bharat to all of you. Bharat is a seasoned business leader and the founder president of Wakhlu Advisory, offering his services to a wide range of businesses and executives as a transformational thought leader, a futurist, strategic consultant, and leadership coach. He is a renowned keynote speaker and author who has written and spoken extensively on management, business transformation, ethics and leadership, talent management, and spirituality. Since starting his firm, he has served and advised a number of reputed organizations in India, Europe, and Middle East and Africa. He has spent more than 30 years working as an entrepreneur and business leader within the Tata ecosystem, starting his career as a graduate engineer on the shop floors of Tata Motors in Pune. And after acquiring his MBA from IIM Bangalore, being inducted into the prestigious Tata Administrative Service, Bharat has also earned advanced management diplomas from INSEAD France and University of Pennsylvania Wharton School of Business. He had senior operating and board level positions within the Tata Steel Group and Tata Services in India till 2007. He was the president of Tata ANC, the North American holding company of Tata based out of New York. From 2008 to 2014, he was the resident director of Tata Sons till October 2016. He served with the US helicopter company, Sikorsky Aircraft Corporation, now a Lockheed Martin company in Stanford City, as their managing director for India. A fellow of the American Society of Quality and All India Management Association, he served till 2020 as the founding general secretary of the Foundation of Restoration of National Values. He is the co-founder of the Foundation of Peace and Compassionate Leadership and a founding director of Resilient Leadership and Change Masters LLP. Bharat is an author of 7 books, namely Total Quality Excellence Through Organization-Wide Transformation, Let Us Learn Kashmiri, Restoring Values, Keys to Integrity, Ethical Behavior and Good Governance, Close Call in Kashmir, Navigating the Maze, Simple, Smarter Strategies to Fast-Track Success, Enhancing Interpersonal Effectiveness through Assertive Communication. And most recently, Tata's Leadership Experiment, the story of Tata Administrative Services 2022 onwards. He is fluent in 6 languages, including German, Kashmiri, and Marathi. I'm honored to welcome Mr. Bharat on the stage. Please, sir.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A little louder, please. Thank you very much. So, Aman, Dr. Biju, Dhananjay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored and delighted to be here with you at this magnificent auditorium in the Sri Balaji University. I was deeply moved when I heard about the extraordinary journey of one gentleman, the founder, Mr. Balasubramaniam, who's actually single-handedly, in a way, created the vision for this outstanding university, which is now celebrating 25 momentous years of existence. A round of applause on that very, very auspicious note. So as was mentioned during the introduction to me, I have been in the corporate sector for a fairly long time. And as I was walking up the steps to this auditorium this morning, I was quickly commandeered by a bunch of students and taken to a side where there was a little table with some augmented reality and virtual reality, software that they were keen to show me. And that set me thinking. I took over as the head of technical training for Tata Steel in 1992. It's a very, very long time ago. And augmented reality, of course, wasn't around, nor was virtual reality. But what we had started to do at that time was we had actually started to create simulations on computer to enable the workforce of Tata Steel, and Tata Steel was getting modernized at that time. The workforce was able to work on computers and actually get a sense of what they had to do in the pulpits of the rolling mills or the blast furnaces that they were supposed to manage. So training has also come a very, very long way. And as was mentioned by Mr. Nathan, there is There are so many changes that are taking place to enhance the domain expertise and the knowledge of people who are critical to the manufacturing sector and a variety of other jobs in organizations. But I am not going to be speaking about domain expertise today, because that's something you're all very bright and capable leaders in your own respective industries, and you know exactly what skills and knowledge the workforce needs to have to be successful. So what am I going to speak about then? I am going to be speaking about two things. I will be speaking about the need for creating leaders across the organization, and I'll be speaking about the things that organizations need to do to enable leaders to be created across an enterprise. Now, why leadership? Because in my opinion, and in my long years in the corporate sector and even outside of it, I have realized that if there is one thing that makes a difference to the future of an enterprise or a nation or a state, it is outstanding leadership. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, my whole emphasis will be on what it is that we need to do collectively to make sure that people rise to the occasion and actually show the kind of behaviors that are essential to take their organizations into the uncertain future. So once again, let me start off by saying thank you to the National HRD Network Pune chapter for having me here. I'm very, very glad that you're meeting in person after a gap of 2.5 years, which is commendable given the fact that these have been unprecedented times that we were facing till recently, the pandemic and lots of uncertainty. The theme of this summit, of course, is also reinventing learning and development. And you might say, why is there even a need for that? Training is training after all. Helping people learn is something that, it's been done for so long. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the fact is that we are undoubtedly facing unprecedented changes and challenges. Nobody can predict what is going to be needed in a few months. Mr. Nathan said that. I'm emphasizing that as well. The kind of skills and capabilities and competencies that you might need, some are bound to be more stable, but many others are bound to change. And there is no guarantee that what you know today will be of any use to you tomorrow. So there is undoubtedly a lot of change happening. There are disruptions that we know about. There are crises, not just the COVID pandemic or the climate crisis. There are resource shortages. A ship got stuck in the Suez Canal about a year ago, and half the automotive industries in Pune shut down. Now you might say, what's the connection? But there is a connection, of course. Supply chains are global. The resources that are used in India come from elsewhere. Resources that are used in other parts of the world are coming from other places. People's aspirations are changing, and I don't need to tell you what's been happening as far as people are concerned. People are resigning and joining companies completely unrelated to their training or their professional training, simply because they want more meaning. Their aspirations have changed. They're looking for something different. They're looking for more joy and happiness and more balance, more work-life balance in their lives. Technology is a disruptor as well. And therefore, we are dealing with changes that none of us can imagine. Well, we can imagine them in their individual capacities, but nobody can imagine what's going to happen when technology impinges on resource shortages or on talent shortages or other kinds of crises. We got a glimpse of it during the pandemic, but that is only a very, very tiny little glimpse. So what is it that we as leaders or we as people organized for delivering something to our customers need to do about this? I think, first of all, we have to understand that in an extremely dynamic environment, we can only create leaders in every part of the organization who have the ability to respond quickly, who are adaptive, and who are in a position to ensure that despite what's happening outside, they have the resilience to quickly bounce back along with their teams. Now, these are all leadership capabilities. And I am therefore of the view that organizations have to be committed to creating a large body of decentralized leaders across the organization in different functions, and they have to be trained, or they have to have the capability to rise to the occasion, irrespective of what the outside might hold. Now, what are the kind of behaviors that we are talking about? I typically cite 6 behaviors which every single leader has to have if the leader has to truly deal with a uncertain environment, lots of disruptions, and so on. First and foremost, leaders have to understand that if change is happening, they must be able to recognize change. Now, you might think this is extremely basic. Well, it's basic, but you heard about the story of the frog in the pot. The frog is placed in a pot of lukewarm water. It stays there, it feels comfortable. As you heat the pot, the water temperature rises. And because the rise in temperature is happening so gradually, the poor frog dies of getting overheated. Whereas had you plunked a frog in a boiling pot of water, it would jump out immediately. Now, that's something which we as leaders have to be very, very conscious of. Today, the changes in some areas are dramatic. In many others, they're extremely slow and not so discernible. But we as leaders have to understand that something is changing, and we have to use whatever tools that we have, right from data analytics, right from trend assessments and so on, to know that there is a change happening. Our customers want something else. The stakeholders are demanding something else. That ability to quickly receive that is critical. So exposing the need of change and knowing what kind of change is happening. Number 2, when leaders understand that change is happening, they have to change themselves, their organizations, their processes. They have to therefore envision the kind of things that they have to create for the future. That is also a leadership ability, which is extremely critical in this day and age. Number 3, they have to start to enlist people. How will they bring something to fruition unless people are part of their team, unless people buy into what they're doing, until people do not engage with them and feel a part of what it is that is being done by the organization. So after the enlisting process, these people have to be empowered to be able to be self-reliant, to be able to run on their own with the skills. And that's where the domain expertise comes into play. They have to be encouraged to deliver with the right kind of systems and processes in the organization that support a change in the organization, the transformation. And the leaders themselves, and that's the final thing that leaders have to do, they have to, on their own, they have to exemplify and be role models to everybody else in the organization if they really need to make a lasting change. So in that sense, the learning and development engine has to focus on creating these competencies across the organization. And the importance of adaptive leadership cannot be overemphasized for the simple reason that that alone will help the organization to strategically move towards the new normal, the new areas that the companies will have to focus on. It requires leaders to ask the right questions. It enables them to think strategically and really think of new ways to meet the expectations and aspirations of not just their clients, but also people inside the organization. At the same time, there's also need to look at the tactical requirements within the organization beyond the domain expertise, which I mentioned is bound to be very, very critical, but which we will take as something which every organization is going to focus on. So at the tactical level, there is also a need for every function to understand what are the competencies and capabilities that will deliver the kind of results that are required by customers. So we talked about the strategic, the leadership level requirements, and that's a huge investment which every organization has to make. At the same time, the leadership and development, the learning and development engine has to run continuously to help every function focus on the tactical competencies and capabilities required to meet the business results that are critical. At the same time, we also need to create the processes to track the improvement in competencies and skills. And we have to, unlike in the past, where we might have had groups going for training, we now have to be familiar and comfortable with the idea of incentivizing individual level training, which means just like, we in the 1990s taught our shop floor foremen on the simulator on the computer. In the same way, digitized working, digitized training and learning in their own time is going to be a very, very critical requirements of skill development at the pace at which people are comfortable. So we need to create those learning opportunities for people to be able to learn at their own pace. And when we talk about enhancing learning opportunities, that means the organization has to quickly adopt new technologies, which are, like AR and VR are one example. We have to also make sure that coaching becomes an integral part of what we offer: mentoring, simulations, gamification, apprenticeship training, on-the-job training, and a host of other creative things that you can think of. Because if you don't do that, you will still be using archaic methods to deal with an environment that is changing rapidly and where the expectations of the people who work for you are also changing. So there really is a need to keep these things in mind. And finally, a word about what is the role of the board in all this. Now, typically you might say, oh my God, HR is so far removed from the board. At best, you might have the ED HR sitting on the board and that's about it. I'm sorry, the board has a key role to play in an environment where everything is changing, because they are amongst the few people who will take decisions about the direction that the company is going to take. And very often, if there's a disconnect between what the board is thinking and what the functional heads are doing, you will not be able to plan for the capabilities, either at the leadership level or the tactical level, that will help the enterprise. Because the board might say, okay, let's divest. And here you are as L&D executives, you're training people in skills that may or may not be needed when the sale is announced. So there is a need for the boards to also engage very, very actively with all of you here, because if the board decisions are going to make a difference to how people have to be managed, how they have to be treated, you must be the first ones to know about it. Because I was very pleased, Aman, when you were reading out the code of conduct, the seven slides that we read out this morning. And I was very happy because that's really what's required. But too often, the board sometimes takes decisions which are not communicated, and there is no forewarning, and people get demoralized, people feel cheated, and that is not the way in which you can be an outstanding L&D professional. So my submission, ladies and gentlemen, is focus on leadership development across the organization. Focus on tactical ways to enhance the key competencies required by people to deliver what is required by each function. Create a leadership development and learning and development engine, which is continuously running in the organization and which leverages technology, which ensures that all the most effective ways of self-learning are reinforced. Add coaching and mentoring to the process, give stretch assignments, give on-the-job training, make sure that everybody is learning and incentivize individual learning. Anybody who comes into the organization has got to learn, and learn not just to be relevant in the larger context, but in the organization as well. People need to know exactly what it is that the organization wants of them. And for the young budding leaders of tomorrow sitting in the back benches, I want to tell you that don't you ever think that the organization is responsible for your development or your learning. You, my dear young friends, are responsible for your own growth and development. Yes, good HR executives will help you, they'll facilitate your growth, but at the end of the day, never think that your organization will do anything for you because they would like to, but they just cannot. It's too diverse a thing that they have to take care of, and they can't do it. It's humanly impossible. So you be responsible, you be capable of delivering the best that your customers want. You make sure that you're ready to serve in the most difficult conditions, and that would be the way to bring your skills up to speed. So let me now wrap up with one little story from the time when I was the head of training for Tata Steel. You know, at that time, a lot of the training used to be done that was considered to be just in case training. Oh, which means 3 years down the road, there might be something which will come up. So please prepare our managers for it today. When I took over as the head of training, I said, just in case training is out. Why? Because I said, instead of wasting energy and time of executives on something that may happen, why don't we give instead just in time training for the things that are required today and which will enable the performance of the company to be heightened now. A lot of people, of course, found this a little revolutionary even at that time. But looking back, I realized that that was the right thing to do, because today, anybody who talks about just in case training has already lost my attention. Today is the era of just in time training, not just in case training, because the world is changing so rapidly. There are only a few large blocks that you can play around with, and that's what your role is going to be. All else will have to, evolve, and then you will have to respond to that. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention. I wish the conference my best. And once again, I sincerely hope that you go back enriched with the deliberations that you have over the day today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bharat sir, for those lucid understanding to all of us. The highlights of Bharat sir's speech is there are three things to be learned. One is there is a need for creating leaders. Second is leaders must identify the change on the backdrop of changing trends in L&T. And for this, organizations must enable leaders to create and run L&D engine. Thank you so much, sir. May I now please request Mr. Dhananjay Singh, sir, Director General, National HRD, to please felicitate our guest, Mr. Bharat Wakluz. Thank you so much, Bharat sir, once again. Thank you, Dhananjay sir. May I request you to please propose the vote of thanks.
Good morning, everyone. I hope I'm audible. Thank you. it's a very emotional moment because Colonel Bala sir, when I used to come to Pune and meet him in this campus, in this premises, this campus is very, very inspiring. And as Bharat sir said, you feel a human being, a vision of a human being can create what we can see here. Think of 900 families whose wards are studying here. Every year they pass out. They join some sector or they open their own organization. And how much they must be contributing in the human resource development, not only for themselves, but their families and the larger society. Friends, I'm really remembering Colonel Bala sir here. Also, Bharat sir, thank you so much for joining us here. As a student of management profession, I really admire Bharat sir for leading India and what India's corporate sector is known today in the world for its ability to not only manage, but to lead across the globe. One of such leaders, Bharat sir, is here today with us. Let's thank him with a huge round of applause. One of the toughest mergers and acquisitions of the world in corporate sector was under his pen, under his leadership. And not one, many such corporate histories which Indian managers have created. Friends, curating a conference like this is never easy. And it was not possible except the vision and ability of Aman Bhai as chapter president of Pune chapter to lead this. Thank you, Aman Bhai, for leading 7th L&D Summit. There is a huge difference in pre-COVID and post-COVID world. And despite that difference, I can see what was done in the past. This year, you have added a lot of muscle to what we have done in the past, Aman Bhai. Thank you very much, EC of Pune chapter. In absentia, I could see Anand Bhai was here. I can see Neeraj Bhai. Thank you so much for continuing the support to the network. Also, when we are talking about Aman's Bhai ability is to involve everyone. And that's why this process of putting this live stream for the whole world to see. And Pune chapter invited other chapters also to join. Thank you so much, Pratima, for joining us from Bombay. Thanks to Professor Vijayan, because of his some commitments at home, he could not join us today. Thank you so much for creating that culture, Aman Bhai, where everybody can come together. I don't have words to thank Team Balaji, because you all are the ones who ensure that we all are here together, Professor Biju and the team. Balaji can boast of a fact, our 1,811 students, the membership comes from one place, which is Balaji Institute. And put your hands together to thank Balaji Institution for that. Let me also thank on behalf of all our 33 chapters, including one in Singapore. Each one of you are esteemed, respected speakers, representatives from corporate, academia, and students for joining us here for this 7th Learning and Development Summit. Before I end my proposing vote of thanks, I would like to remind you, it was in year 1903, when it was 17th of December, when the world took the first sustained air flight. Wright brothers took that. And this moment is not less than that. When our veterans, our managers and budding managers are together talking about a subject of learning and development, maybe 20 years, 30 years from now, the young students whom we see in the audience will be leading the large corporations of the world. And maybe God's grace, we will be sitting in the audience clapping for them. Thank you so much. Learn something from this summit and add value to your life, your family's life, and obviously to National Challenge. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dhananjay sir. May I please request all the dignitaries on the stage to please take the seat in the first row. We are starting with track number 1 immediately. The track 1, we have got 4 speakers, Vinita, Sampada, Harish, and Janani. Talking about the track 1, which is titled as Reinforcing Deep Learning for Sustained Outcomes, Building Learning Organizations. Technology is often found at the core of human evolution, and the very advancement of technology has helped us evolve in the way we run our businesses and the various avenues of businesses into which one can potentially venture. With the advancement in the research and applicability of technology such as AI, deep learning, neural networks, learning can now potentially be made fun, adaptive, intuitive, and in very simple words, tailor-made, yet exciting for your workforce. Working as well as coexisting with technology is an essential skill in today's landscape, and technologies such as these make this a seamless experience while incorporating humanizing elements in the everyday technology we encounter at work. We can expect growth in each of the current 5 main fields of artificial intelligence, which include deep learning, robots, dematerialization, gig economy, and autonomous vehicles. Deep learning describes a collection of network and algorithms that model and extract data which can be utilized in connected machines that are built to outperform human specialists and learn from one another. Backend tasks are replaced by dematerialization through the recording and processing of data. Each of these applications represent an environment that is agile and is expectedly handled through machines programmed to learn. The potential of collaboration, information sharing, and knowledge creation increases as artificial agents and humans are placed in the settings. Concepts such as deep and reinforcement learning act as the key drivers in empowering machines to learn. As we prepare for the future of work that intricately views humans and intelligent machines together, it is imperative that the workforce is equipped with the knowledge and skills to build, coexist, and perform amidst these machines. Reinforcing deep learning would ensure the sustained outcomes generated in such a scenario. For this track, may I please call upon Ms. Janani Prakash on the dais, who will be moderating this track, and I request Trupti and Aditya for the introduction of the speakers.
Ms. Janani Prakash is the Global Head of Human Resource for Continental Inc., a technology pioneer that offers outcome business models through the digitalization of urban infrastructure. Ma'am has more than 16 years of progressive HR leadership experience across product, service, startup, and consulting organizations. She has led several efforts on aspects such as mergers and acquisition, workforce planning, succession planning, diversity and inclusion, and business transformations. She was featured in the Elite Club of Business World HR 40 under 40 list and has been recognized with the topmost HR Leader Award India during 30th World HRD Congress 2022 and has also been recognized as Asia's 100 Power Leaders in Human Resources by White Page International in 2022. Janani is also a part of the Young Leader Council and the National HRD Network Board, and also an executive committee member of the Hyderabad chapter. We welcome you, ma'am. Our next guest is Ms. Sampada Inamdar. Ms. Sampada Inamdar is the Head of Talent Development at Tata Motors and is also a member at the Global Council of Corporate Universities. She has vast experience in capability organization development, is also an executive coach, and has majorly worked in the arena of performance management as well. We welcome you, ma'am. May we please have ma'am on the stage?
May I now please invite Harish Kumar Subramaniam sir to grace the stage. Our next speaker is Harish Kumar Subramaniam sir, who is a senior leader in L&D. Sir has a rich experience in learning and development spanning over 20 years and has a strong background in instructional design and training and development. He has a proven track record of creating and delivering successful training programs and has the ability to adapt to different learning styles and needs. He also has an excellent communication and interpersonal skills, as well as the ability to assess and analyze the effectiveness of training program. We welcome you, sir. May I now please request Ms. Vidita Mungi ma'am to grace the stage. Our next speaker is Ms. Vidita Mungi ma'am, Director at Mungi Engineers Private Limited and Director Promoter of Hillcrest Food and Beverages Private Limited, of which Rhythm Winery is a part. Ma'am started working in a family business in 2013, Mungi Engineers Private Limited, which is an engineering firm catering to automotive, off-highway and wellman industries in India and overseas. She started her career in HR and eventually began HR for the group. She also took over a small boutique winery set up in 2014, which was making strawberry and pineapple wine. Today, Rhythm Winery is supplied to various states in India and also exporting to the UK and Singapore. They are the pioneers in manufacturing fruit wines in India. We welcome you, ma'am. Thank you.
Over to Janini ma'am for the moderation and taking it ahead.
Slide deck. Okay, am I audible? Can you hear me? All right. Good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. I hope standing here is okay for the people who are watching it through live streaming. Is that okay? Okay, great. Thank you, NHRD Pune chapter and Balaji Institute for having me here. I'm going to talk about a rather critical topic of today. It's about devising a learning and development strategy for startups. In addition to talking about this, I have the privilege of moderating this session with this esteemed panel. So in the next several minutes, you'll first hear this and then each of the panelists will speak after me. Now, why is this topic very important? If you could please go back. Yeah, why is this topic important? How many startups do we have in India? 15,000. Say that again. 50,000, very close. One more guess. 3 lakhs. Far-fetched, maybe 20 years later. 60,000, closest. So let's lock it. 57,000. 57,000 startups as of right now. Let me ask you another question. In this large world, in the global ecosystem, what is India's rank in terms of startups? Third, very good. Do you know what is it expected to become in the next 3 years? First. Okay, any other answers? One last chance. Second, yes, it's expected to become second in the next 3 years. So let me take you through this slide now. I'll also tell you why this is important. We are talking about devising a learning and development strategy for startups. First of all, we need to know that startups are different animals, not like enterprise, not like manufacturing companies that have existed, because there have been people that have been there, done that for several years, isn't it? Several decades. So we have the ability to go ask people, learn from them, and then do. But look at startups. Between 2014 to 2022, just half year, there are about 57,000 startups. If you could please move on to the next slide. We will become 1 lakh startups just in the next 3 years, 1 lakh. So almost double. Today, if you see, we have about 800,000 people working in startups. This number is going to become 5 million by 2025. 5 million, we're talking about a big multiplier, right? All of these numbers are from Inc. 42, so you could refer to it. They have a beautiful startup report. In case you want to follow more about the startup world, I think that's a great website for you. Number 3, I think we spoke about the second rank and third rank. So far, the funding has been about $131 billion, and it is expected to become 150 to 200 billion. The number of people employed, I did mention. Unicorn Club has 105 companies here, and it will become 250. I brought in some of these critical numbers because numbers tell a lot of stories that we otherwise never understand, right? Facts lead us to make critical decisions. Now, why is this important? Because a number of you here who may be working in large enterprise or are budding students and looking to get into the industry, you could be in a startup tomorrow. I was in an enterprise for almost 10 years. I was with Deloitte up until last year, and then I moved to a startup 15 months ago. And I realized that I jumped into something where I'm going to keep learning to swim almost every day, right? And this is with all respect to all varieties of industries, because this is just budding, everybody is just learning. So having established the business case for knowing about startup enough, let me talk about the challenges that are in a startup. If you could please move to the next slide. There is this popular statement about building the plane as they are flying, right? A startup is like that. I'm building a plane, but then I'm also flying it. And I'm supposed to not fall down, because then not just me, everyone in my plane are going to die, right? So that's the risk that a startup operates with. Let's look at some of the challenges that are different from enterprise. And in my introduction, probably it was not mentioned, I've been in IT for a long time, but then I worked in product, services, enterprise, and startup. So I have a fair comparison of how different organizations operate and the challenges that are there in all of these companies. So I've just carved out the ones that amplify the startup ecosystem here. The management team that's there is usually a founding team of 3-4 members, and then it starts expanding. You don't know when you're going to expand. You think, okay, I'm going to expand tomorrow. Okay, in which area am I going to expand? And then there is this constant thing of, I want to keep the culture of my founding team because that's what has brought me here. That's brought me the first funding, right? From there, okay, I slowly start expanding, and then I start thinking about how do I train my new hires? I do not have a brand at all. I want to hire my new hires. How do I do that? Okay, some top performer did really well. Let me have him train the others. But top performers are not top teachers, right? But that's how a startup operates, and learning and development almost starts just there. Limited to absolutely no budget. There is no money sometimes to pay up your monthly bills or the monthly salaries. So forget about L&D. L&D is an extravaganza if you want to spend, right? I'm just talking about startup as an ecosystem when it just starts. But then there is a journey, and I'll talk about the journey as well in the next few minutes. Everyday change management. When I signed up for my current opportunity last year, I did not think I signed up for a company that's going to acquire 3 more organizations right after me joining, right? So I thought, okay, I came in, I know what I'm supposed to put together. And within 1 month, we announced a big acquisition. And then there is another acquisition. And then see, the complexity changes on an everyday basis. Size doesn't matter at all. It's like this, I jokingly tell this to my team. It's like having 3 boys in the family and then getting all the 3 boys getting married in the same year and then living in joint family. That's what happens in startups when you're doing mergers and acquisitions, because it is of strategic importance for the organization, right? So change management here is more different and difficult. And now you might ask me, how is it different from a large company that might be acquiring other organizations or being acquired? There, the change management process spans anywhere between 3 to 5 years. I've been there as well. But here, they say by 3 months, everything has to be done. Day 10 is like, hey, is this done? We have spent so much on the acquisition. So it's a different ball game. The speed, agility that's expected is different. There is change fatigue as well. Culture, is it culture add or is it culture fit? Constant question of that, because you don't know which culture you want to land up to. You think you have landed and then you're transforming. Finally, this is another thing I'll quote from my example. I joined the organization last year and then my CEO said, so Janani, I want you to build a very strong foundation for the organization. Okay, sure, I will do that. But mind you, it has to be futuristic. And what's future? We are just getting out of COVID. I have to lay the foundation, but it has to be futuristic because it has to be relevant at least for 3 years. We are not talking about longevity beyond that, right? So going to the last slide that I have, given all of this challenges and the context that I have set about a startup ecosystem, let me tell you about how a journey of developing a learning and development strategy can be thought through for this kind of an ecosystem, right? Obviously, this gives you an understanding that it's not like a large organization or a well-established organization. So, and this is purely out of my own experience. The way you can first start the journey is to look beyond L&D. Don't think of L&D as, it's like starting to do a weight reduction exercise and start looking at your weighing machine every alternate day does not work. You have to start doing the right things and see what is very specified to the person that we are working with, right? So if you see, again, startups are not very good at process documentation or having a knowledge repository. But why it's important for them? Because you're going to have a lot of people coming in. Due to lack of brand, you will have people leaving and then people joining. So there is going to be a musical chair that's going to be sustained for some time. And having process improvements or process documents, knowledge repository makes a lot of sense. That's where the L&D journey can slowly begin, right? That's like a start point, I would say. Now, after this is done, it's very critical for the L&D professional or the HR leader in such an organization. Most often you might not have a L&D person specifically in a startup environment, but let's say it's a HR leader. It's important to think about how is it that what is the business about and what kind of learnings will help this business, and then what of it is available free in the market, right? For example, I come from the IT world, so I can talk about IT. Cloud transformation is something most companies are going through. Everybody knows cloud? Yes? Okay. All of us know cloud because our phone numbers, photographs, everything is in the cloud, right? My 8-year-old daughter also knows this. So, so let's say cloud is a big thing and all companies are going through. So if there are specific trainings that are available for free, and there are a lot of resources today, we have plethora of resources, right? We're suffering from abundance is what I might say if I'm using it rightly. There's just a lot of resources. It's about marrying those resources to the needs that are there. Again, keeping it cost efficient or no cost for a while, and then slowly start showing number of certifications. In our case, we had AWS certifications, Microsoft certifications. We had some kind of business partnership with them, but we didn't. We could start there, and when the number of people started certifying themselves, it created a sense of pride, and business relevance automatically started showing up. Now, there are other things that you would end up doing in a startup, which we'll definitely not do in large companies, which is a knowledge barter system. That's how I'm calling it, because I had certain needs in terms of soft skills or specific areas for my own team, but I did not have the budget to start training them, and they're just hearing from me all the time is not going to help. So I spoke to friends or industry connects. I requested them to do some sessions for my team, and I went and did some sessions for them. So that's how we kind of enabled each other's teams. But you see, these are certification programs that the team also sees that, okay, now this is a serious business. I better start contributing with whatever I'm learning. So that's another important area, and that's what I call it social capital. Measuring effectiveness is again very critical, because in a startup world, you know, how is it going to help in terms of getting more funding? Or will it help in the bid system? Like how many projects will you newly win if you're able to have more number of certifications in a specific area? These might not be very prevalent in large setups, but in small setups it may have relevance. So starting to measure those will be very critical. And then digital first mindset. most often you heard the other speakers talk as well. The world is a global village, so everybody is everywhere. And in setups like ours or most startups, it's like you're going to have people all over. So the pace has to be self-paced, and then you have a digital mindset. So digital first training, which is self-paced, I think works wonderfully well. So eventually in our journey, after we started showing after we started showing some successes and business relevance, we could get budgets for very good digital aids to enable our employees, right? Finally, it's very critical, at least for the HR leader, to have that balance in terms of how much technology or technical training do you want to provide versus how much of it should be the core industry, or what soft skills will you need? What leadership skills will you need for this organization? Because mind you, in these setups, some people who are very good technically became leaders, but they may not have the essential leadership skills to scale the organization, right? So that's a very critical aspect that as an HR leader one needs to hold, and then that will aid to balance the varieties of learnings that are there. And so this is how I think I would leave it, saying in a startup, it's not about learning the skills alone. You have to have multiple ways. It's not just about sitting in front of the system and learning or attending a classroom training. So there is education, exposure, experience, everything happening simultaneously. More than anything, as a HR professional or learning professional, it's important to help these businesses learning to anticipate what's going to come for tomorrow and learning to learn itself, because the way of learning is transforming drastically. Our attention spans have come down. The speed with which we are supposed to operate is drastically becoming changed. And then agility, I think that's the word everywhere. So I would leave it at that. And I would invite Sampada to talk about scale and how she has done learning transformations at scale, right? Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so looks like we're in a relay now. We've been told that, time is of importance and slightly paucity of time. So may I just request the deck to be put up? So till the time that is getting put up, just want to give you a context. We just saw how a startup, new entity, speed, wanting to rare, and the change that is happening. What I'm sharing with you is learning for scale and speed, which is a slightly broader perspective that I'm trying to put up. Can we go to the next slide, please? We know of all these disruptions. We've been experiencing them, certain challenges there. So there's been a shifting economic power. We know that the whole purchase parity, the emerging markets, Asian countries, coming up, the developing nations doing well. As a result of which, more than 2.5 billion population is going to be coming up in the middle class in Asia by 2050. That's a huge number, which means the whole of middle class, which was considered to be at the bottom of the pyramid, is now coming up. That's a huge economic power shift that is coming up as far as Asia is concerned. Accelerating technological changes, I think we're experiencing it. The way we interact today is very different. Many a times, in fact, there's an interesting research which is happening in one of the US universities, which says that the whole technology, when we say we get a great message and we say lol, or we say we want to laugh out, there are emoticons that we use, but then there's hardly any change on our face. Going forward, in fact, people are even going to the extent of wondering whether we would have learning and development sessions, how to express emotions on our faces, a skill which probably could have been forgotten some time ago, sometime later. So that's technological change that we're all experiencing. Aging population, we know already, I think there's a slide which I can show later on, system-wide transformation. The rate at which organizations are changing today, the tenure of an organization is fast decreasing. Other than the startups, wherein the tenures would increase, but most of the organizations, which are the traditional organizations, their tenure is decreasing. Imagine what would happen the employability life of individuals in organizations is going to reduce. There's not going to be anything like a job security. Mid-year crisis, which used to be a 40-year, at 40 years of age, is no longer going to be relevant. Imagine what would happen to all the longevity. Healthcare is increasing, medical insurances are increasing. My longevity, I'm probably likely to go on living till 80 years of age, but my work actually stops at 20 or 30 years of age. What am I supposed to be doing, right? That's the whole system-wide, transformation which is happening. We've also experienced, thanks to COVID, the great resignation. We've also experienced great reshuffle. I will come to that. Now, I don't know what is the next great thing coming up. Aman just reassured us that after this L&D summit, pandemic is not hitting. But I don't know what is the next reset that's going to happen. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, this is the aging effect, aging transformation that I'm talking to you about. I'm sure you would have seen this. On the left-hand side, what you see blue is the male graph, and on the right is a female graph. This is for India. On the left-hand side is dated 2006. On the right-hand side is 2010. And what is coming up is much higher. What you see there is the bottom of the pyramid is your age, right? We have large numbers, as India, we have large numbers of population in a younger age group. 2010, we're having a fatter population in the slightly middle age group. Actually, going forward today, we're having a much more fatter age group in the middle. So it's like having a pear-shaped graph. Health-wise, let me tell you, that's not good, which means you have a huge amount of fat in the belly. That is what we are actually today. Now, what does that mean? It means that our aging population is increasing. There's an inverted pyramid for the developed countries like Germany, like Japan, wherein you have age population higher and a younger population much lower. Tell me, is that going to do good for the future? Is that going to do good for the economy? Not really, right? Fortunately, we're in a good space. We've got 65% below the age of 35 years of age, which is not bad. So we need to make sure that we milk on the demographic dividend that we have. Next. So I think given the paucity of time, I won't get into what the India story is, but basically India story, we know we've been experiencing it, the whole digitization piece, a huge lot of change that is happening. So I would probably skip this. Let's go to the next one. Yeah, so understanding scale and speed. From an organization standpoint, while it is important, like Bharat also mentioned today morning, that it's important that we look at leadership development, we look at functional domain expertise, etc. But finally, at the end of the day, it is the unit of measure as individual, right? Whose learning am I responsible for? I'm responsible for my own learning, my own career growth. Yeah, finally, the account ends with me and my galla. What is coming into my galla is my learning and my career, right? We cannot ignore that. But from an organization standpoint, if we're talking about skill at an individual level, there's got to be a momentum which the team and the group has to provide. And therefore, a skill velocity will happen when we're able to have a critical mass who's skilled enough, who's raring to go, and who's developed for the future-ready skills. That is what the critical mass will give us a snowball effect. If the snowball effect does not happen, we don't get momentum. Skill velocity, therefore, becomes an important aspect. Let's go to the next one. Therefore, for any kind of an organized mission that we are talking about, we may want to ask ourselves whether we want to operate on a T structure, the T model. Unfortunately, it's not very clear from here, but the T model basically says, how many skills, how much am I able to operate on an organization-wide or inch-wide and mile-deep kind of an approach, right? Which means how many interdisciplinary competencies do I have as an individual? Am I willing to cross-skill? Am I willing to just be married to one set of domain expertise, or am I willing to cross-skill, which is across disciplines? So that's the inch-wide approach. And the deep mile deep approach is the competence, the domain expertise competence. Today there is a lot of talk and skepticism happening about recession hitting the developed world. I'm an electronic engineer or I'm a computer science engineer. Suppose I'm not getting jobs in the US. What happens? What happens to my career? I'm just a startup, right? Or I'm just starting my career. Am I willing to move into another cross-section of skill sets? Am I willing to look into cross-skilling? Am I willing to get into data sciences or data analytics as a career of mine? That's the kind of fungibility that we are talking about. A skill fungibility is extremely important for all of us. It doesn't matter whether I'm a 20-year-old kid or I'm a 40-year-old still a kid and a 60-year-old still a kid. Longevity is 80 years. I better do something about it. The next thing, therefore, I'm saying is looking at the T structure, the how part of scaling and speed becomes extremely important. And therefore, as organizations, we've heard and we've experienced, there's so many corporate universities which exist for the organized corporate sector. That's one methodology, that's one vehicle of making sure that there's skill and there is speed and there is scale that we're able to deal with. Another way of that today are operating our consortiums. So people in the automotive consortium or the FMCG consortiums, these are forming consortiums and making sure that there are, the skills and is scaled up and it is made available to the end user, the last mile it's being available. The other piece is, of course, exposure to industry academia partnerships. I can say I come from an automotive industry and I can say that the automotive industry, I wonder, whether the identity is changing because nowhere only can a company say that they're a product manufacturing company, because the same company today needs embedded systems, today needs digital, skill sets and so on. So the interdisciplinarity of skills is huge, right? That is where the industry academia partnership helps. Higher education today, a BTech or an MTech today is not offered to the extent that an electric vehicle manufacturing requires, right? So there's a lot of industry academia partnership and curriculum co-design, et cetera, that happens. That's got to be the way forward. And the last and not the least is, of course, each nation in Asia is coming up with a huge amount of education policies. It's very important that the industry not just caters to these education policies, but is also lobbying towards influencing for the good of the nation, right? Because fundamentally, what's good for the country is good for me, right? That's the approach that needs to be taken. Let's go to the next one. Yeah, this is the competency framework. A lot of times I've heard, organizations talking about competency framework, L&D space, etc. But here's an invitation. If the tenure of the organization is shrinking, shouldn't my competency frameworks be changing really fast? We've just heard Janani talk about how change is happening so fast in the startup. What becomes therefore relevant to us is actually questioning whether we're talking competency framework, will they be continue to remain relevant, or are we talking skill framework? There's a huge amount of trend that I see happening where in higher education, doing an MTech or a postgrad versus doing skill certifications. A huge amount of young population is actually going and thinking about that. They're saying, I did not spend 2 years of my time and money into looking at a higher education, which is a generic one, versus look at a skill certification, which gets me job. Because I don't know how long the skill would be there. As it is, after 3 years, I'll have to skill myself into another domain area, right? So that's the other shift which is happening. So are we talking competency framework? Are we talking skill framework? So what is the great reshuffle that's happening? And therefore the invitation is, of course, unlearn, of course, upskill, reskill, etc. But is it time to look at cross-skilling? It really doesn't matter what age, but cross-skilling probably. And I remember when I was growing up, there used to be this term called jack of all, master of none. And it used to be looked down upon. Today, is it master of one, jack of none? I don't know. But probably we definitely need to be jack of all and master of two at least. That's the I think mantra for cross-skilling that is necessary. Yeah, next one, please. Yeah, I think I'll skip that given that I'm already getting indications on timelines. But basically the point here I'm trying to make is we need to be definitely future ready. We need to be much more proactive, and the buck starts and stops with me. It really doesn't matter what my organization is doing. It doesn't really matter what my manager is doing. It doesn't matter what my country is doing. If I want to make a difference, starting with myself, me, my family, that's the smallest unit that I'm catering to. Let me make a difference there. Can I be a catalyst there? If I can, other things will have a ripple effect. Let's go to the next one. Yeah, the next slide. We can skip all this. Yeah, the next one. I think I just want to leave you with this thought. Improvement has to happen, right? What's the physics of improvement? The left-hand side graph that you see is like a PDCA cycle, right? I do action, there is an improvement. I achieve something, there is an improvement required, corrective improvement or a preventive improvement. I make that, right? What is that? That's basically a marginal improvement, right? So every step by step, boon boon ke ghada bharta is what we know. Step by step, there's going to be an improvement. The thing is, guys, do I have the time? By the time I do this step-by-step improvement and reach somewhere, probably I've already missed the wagon, right? I really don't have the luxury of time. Therefore, what I need to do is look at the other graph, which is the center graph. What is it saying? It's a tipping point graph. It's saying that if I reach a tipping point, I have to go take a big leap. That is the breakthrough. If I don't do that, I'm bound to go down. That's what happens with organizations. That's what happens with individuals. That's where I need to operate on. So which means I need to think differently. I need to think breakthrough right from the design stage. I want to design my career, which is for you as students, or I want to design my company as an employer. I want to design life for my family as a family member. I better do it at a breakthrough level. So right from design stage, I have to think different. I have to think big. Otherwise, I don't get it there. And therefore, it's very important. I think there are these 4 things that I would want to leave you with. Cross-skilling, deep competency, which is the T model. If I don't operate there, my survival is at stake. The other thing that I'm saying is collaborate. Collaborating through communities becomes extremely important. There's no way we are going to be able to exist. If industry academia doesn't coexist, no way we are going to be there. The next is connect, use of technology. I don't think we have a choice. There's ample research which has happened. AI ML happens, it helps de-skilling processes, but finally the human connect, like Bharat was also saying, like Nathan also said, the human connect and the humanitarian loss cannot be replaced. So connect is extremely important. And the last is communicate. Without communication, I don't think I would be here or you would be there, right? So thank you so much.
Am I audible? Okay, so while we get the presentation, my name is Harish Kumar Subramanian. I am from a company called RRD. I'm from Chennai, and we are a Fortune 500 integrated communications company headquartered in Chicago. We have 37,000 employees worldwide, and in the Asia Pacific region, we have around 7,500 people working with us. So are you going to be the, okay, so we'll play a game, right? So every time I do this, you, right? Okay, can you go back to the previous slide? Yeah. Okay, thanks. So the first thing I want to do is appreciate the organizers of this summit. I think it is brilliantly executed. I like the way everybody, put in a teamwork here, and I saw Bharat talking about how leadership has to start from the bottom, right? So I really thank the organizers here. I specifically like the way how Aditi and Vivek welcomed me. So thank you so much for making it so special. Yeah, I think big round of applause for the organizers. I think traditionally, if you look at it, L&D has been always very self-focused, right? I think we like to go and say, this is what we did, this is what we had done. And sometimes it goes to a level of your self-obsession, right? So somewhere down the line, in RR only, we reflected on this. and said, why do we do it this way? Why can't we try a whole new paradigm? And then, we said, can you go back to previous slide? Sorry. So we said, why do we need to do it in a me way? Why don't we move into a we way so that we could create a sustained learning culture for an organization? So we touched upon 3 pillars, and these 3 pillars eventually became, the way how we moved away from a me to a we. The 3 pillars that you see over there are enriching skills. I think whatever we say, you can bring a lot of value add, AI tools, this, everything, but the bread and butter is skill development. It's absolutely important. You have to do that, right? The second thing you have to do is empower people. There is a lot of magic in empowering people, giving people not just the fish, but teaching them how to catch the fish. And last but not the least, it is enabling people to get what they are looking for. I think we need to decentralize and make it available for everybody so that L&D becomes a transparent organization, not a custodian of knowledge. And all this, for us has resulted on multiple things. One is, of course, what you see over there. It has democratized learning. I think this is a very much talked about subject in the learning space now. How do we democratize learning? We don't want to go and tell people this is what you should learn, this is what you should not learn, right? It's for the people to decide. It's for the audience to decide what they wanted to learn. And sometimes, that's the best way to get people to be on the driver's seat and, make them more accountable for their learning. And eventually, all this resulted in, learning become a USP. When we did a CSAT survey with RRD, we found, people, what do they fondly remember of R.R. Donnelly? L&D came at the top of the table. What's interesting was when we did the same thing with our alumni group, it was again L&D at the top of the table. So we're doing something right? And that's what is that something right is what we feel is our me to we philosophy. And how do we know we are going on the right track, right? So year on year, we are seeing an uptick in the learning adoption. This year, just in 2022, we have seen a 23% uptick in our learning, overall learning in the organization, right? That's a phenomenal number to see on a post-COVID year, right? It was obvious that we saw a lot of uptick on a COVID year, but on a post-COVID year, this kind of an uptick is really, really interesting to see. I want to talk about enriching skills. Like every other organization, we also do induction training. We also do behavioral training, language training, leadership training. But I think COVID, when it hit us, right? I think it took away what we cherish the most. We all cherish classrooms. I think as L&D professionals, we all like a classroom. We all like to go into a classroom and do a training. When COVID happened and social distancing became a norm for everybody, suddenly the classroom is taken away. And somebody said L&D is like a extra wheel that you carry, right? So nobody really bothered when COVID happened. People are focused on business continuity more than learning. And at every possible way you look at it, you're one step back, right? On a sticky wicket. But that's exactly where the best innovations happened. We moved very quickly into the digital space, and we trained our folks on the latest digital technologies that are there, the digital tools that are available. And eventually, our graph started going up. And I still remember 2020, March 23rd, I think we went on a lockdown. And on April or May, we started seeing momentum happening in the learning space. And year-on-year comparison, 2020 was our best year in terms of learning adoption. We saw threefold increase in the amount of learning that was happening in that particular year. I think the main reason for that is, going to the audience to what they are looking for and providing that. All this resulted in this year, if you look at it, you can see that, we have seen a 25% increase in our professional learning. We are we have clocked around 1,40,000 hours for a 7,500 employee, and a significant number of e-learning courses being done. What's interesting about this number that you're seeing over the screen is we don't have a mandatory course. We don't tell people you have to go take these courses, right? We tell people you have everything available. You go and learn what you want. It's a pull-based mechanism than a push-based mechanism. And these numbers are heartening to see and tells us that we are in the right direction. The next thing that I want to talk about is empower. As I said, it's not important to catch the fish and give, but teach people how to catch the fish. So one of the things we did here is we decentralized automation. I think automation is a very important thing, and automation in many ways leads to innovation in an organization, right? And innovation is not a division, or neither is automation a function, right? I think everybody deserves to do automation, and that was our philosophy. So what we did was through one of our initiatives called the Project Next Initiative, which is an acronym for New Emerging Extended Technologies. We trained subject matter experts, people who are domain experts, people who have no way related to programming, no way related to technology. We got them and trained them to become programmers, trained them to become developers. And what is fascinating is the moment they got that skill set, and they understood how to go and reverse engineer a pain point that they're already facing, we saw them go and actually do innovation at the ground level. And interestingly, the innovations that came had a direct result on our business gains. So we saw just in one initiative, we saw around $300,000 of savings. And can you move to the next slide, please? Sorry, yeah. $300,000 of savings. We saw around 109 full-time employees of effort being optimized, a huge amount of hours being saved, and so on. I think this is fascinating to see because this was an experiment we tried and it worked really well. What it also did was it gave people possibilities. You can be anybody, become anybody. So you can join RRD as a financial analyst and then get into a creative space because you have so many talent, mobility within the organization and skill sets that enable you to bridge those competence. It allowed you a lot of possibilities within the organization. So one of the things we did was on the RPA side, which is the robotic process automation, we gave people how to actually automate, and they worked on all the RPA projects within the organization. We also had people understand the Google workspace. I'm sure all of you here have a Gmail account, but what you don't know is Google has a whole complete work suite that's available there that we can leverage and potentially utilize. So we trained our folks on an end-to-end understanding of Google Workspace. And people came back creating wonderful dashboards, real-time dashboards, real-time visualizations, automation, working on Google scripts, and so on. We also got people who had no understanding of data science before in their life. We picked up their best minds and we put them through a 1-year specially curated program. At the end of the 1-year program, they actually blossomed into data scientists. So again, all we need is people with enthusiasm, and more importantly, I think there's a whole lot of free space for people to operate and learn from. The last thing is very important is, I think L&D is a very complicated world. We use a lot of terminologies, a lot of jargons, and we have a lot of programs, and we have a lot of tons and tons of resources, right? So we decided to keep it simple. We said, while artificial intelligence is great, so more important is native wisdom. So we said, we will have to make sure that we simplify and put it in layman's words to people. So when our employees come to us, they don't have to talk to 100 people to find out what they're looking for. So we said, we'll just keep it something very simple and keep it in layman's language and accessible for everyone. And that's how we created this product called Learn at Ease. Learn at Ease was again a homegrown developed portal that had pretty much anything anyone wants to learn about the learning space within RRD. So people can go into that, be part of communities. The social learning there was immense. We saw people going into people finding out self-service reports because people wanted all kind of reports for themselves. People were able to go find what kind of learning they want. Access to all learning resources was available in one place. And more importantly, I think what we did not expect that happened was people are connecting with each other. I think that was really, really heartening to see. And it was just, it's a very recent initiative for RRD. In less than 4 months, we have already seen 70,000 hits on this portal. Daily, the graph is daily increasing. And the best part is the portal is also being managed and supported by the people from the business. So, I think the me to we philosophy is taking L&D out of the equation completely and getting members from the business be part of the whole learning process. And I think that really works. It's like oxygen. You're invisible, but you're absolutely everywhere. And I think that's extremely important when you do this. We also saw a lot of new businesses coming our way in the Google Workspace, in the domain of data science, in the domain of RPA. Bharat was talking about how very important it is to focus on just in need and not just in case. I think both are important. Sometimes just in case happens because you don't know what terrain you're getting into, right? There is so much ambiguity out there, and sometimes the just in case also helps. I want to wrap up with saying our me-to-be philosophy, if I would say is more on, being genuine. I think you have to be genuine. You have to keep your ears on the ground, understand what your employees want, what is it that they're looking for, and keep it simple. At the same time, you have to make it remarkable because whatever you do, you need to make sure that it's of a certain standard, certain level of excellence that is presented to people. And above all things, I think it is who you are speaks more loudly than what you say, right? So you need to be walking the talk. If you're an L&D professional, I'm sure many of you here want to be L&D professionals. You need to be yourself, demonstrating that first before you say and preach something to others, and be worthy of connecting with. In the words of Seth Godin, I would like to thank all of you. I really have a great moment listening to the previous speakers. Thank you so much.
Hi, good morning. It's probably afternoon by now, but while he rings my presentation up, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Vidita Mungi. I work in my family business, Mungi Engineers, and I also have my own winery venture called Rhythm Winery. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you guys a little bit about my family business, which is Mungi Engineers, and you can move on to the next slide. So we are basically an engineering-based company that was incepted in 1984, and we began as a supplier to Mahindra and Mahindra. And we began with a very modest start of 4 men, 4 presses, and a turnover of just 4 lakhs. Today, we are a multi-product, multi-customer company catering to not only automotive, but also farm, off-highway construction equipment, and wind energy segment. We have an employee strength of more than 5,000 people today. And I can proudly say that in the past 4 decades, we have not seen a single year of degrowth. So no, this is not my company corporate presentation, but the reason I'm sharing this story with you guys is that there are a lot of right things that the organization has done. And there are many areas of improvement where we can see, especially after hearing my previous speakers, I feel like there is so much more that we can do in the digital space, in the AI space, and also in Industry 4.0. But even though we are not there yet, there are a lot of things that we have done right, which is why we have reached where we are today. And I want to share with you guys a story of why we have that competitive advantage. Next slide, please. So who we are. You guys can, I don't know if you can read this. Yeah, I think you can read the slide behind me well. So who we are, like I mentioned, with a modest start, we started in 84. And today we are supplying to major customers in India like Mahindra, Tata Motors, Volkswagen, Mercedes, and so on and so forth. The reason where we are today is because of certain L&D practices that have been imbibed in the culture of the company since the get-go, since the inception. So when I actually joined my family business, I realized that even though there was a HR department, the people who actually did the work of the HR department were the HODs. The HR department was just an administrative department. Even though that was a surprise to me, I realized that that is probably why the organization is growing and doing the right things, is because people don't think L&D is the job of an HR professional. Each and every HOD, each and every leader in the company was contributing to the business's talent development, learning, trainings. And that is why each and every individual and executive in the company felt like they were being looked after. Their growth was important to the company, which I feel is lacking today in many organizations that I see, and especially newer organizations that are starting up. They feel that the role of the HR department is to facilitate learning and development and not of anybody else in the organization. Bharat sir mentioned in the morning that that is where we are lacking today, because we need leaders across the organization doing this work for us. And that is one thing that we probably did right. And, we have not only survived, but we've grown year on year until today. Who we also are today is we are supplying to not only Indian OEM, but international OEMs. Yesterday, I was talking to my COO and he told something to me as a joke. He was like, we received an RFQ from a certain company for this technology called hot forming. If you guys are aware with the automobile terminologies, hot forming is a technology which we don't even have in our company yet. And we got a request for quote from a customer without even having that infrastructure. So he said this to me as a joke, but that shows the goodwill that the company and the organization carries in the Indian and international market. That yes, if we are offering a business to this company, they are going to follow it through and deliver the results that we expect. Next slide, please. So like I mentioned earlier, we started off as a tier 1 supplier to Mahindra, and today we have more than 20 customers that we are supplying to. Believe it or not, till 2007, we had only one customer. And then the entire organization's vision, goals, and focus began, and we managed to achieve these additional 20 customers only because everyone believed that this vision and these goals were worth achieving. Everyone was driven towards one particular vision and growth, and that kind of became the culture within the organization. And that again is another thing that I think we did right. And so we have all these, esteemed customers on board today with us. Next slide, please. So the reason I'm sharing these awards with you is, again, not to pitch the company, but to share that even post the automotive recession that happened in 18-19 and followed by the COVID-19 pandemic, where everybody was very, very skeptical about this industry, we managed to not only survive, but surpassed our customer expectations till the time that we achieved these awards and recognitions from them. Next slide, please. So as my previous speakers have spoken and the earlier speakers this morning, that there are so many areas where we need a lot, we have a lot to do and we have a lot of improvement scope. For example, we do not have autonomous robots with us. We are not doing zero waste to landfill. We are still not a lean manufacturing company. And eventually, I'm sure we will get there. But even though we are lacking in certain areas today, I think that our L&D practices are what are taking us a notch above the other competition. One of the very, very strong principles in our organization is the corporate governance. So our core values are not just jotted out on a paper and displayed on the wall. Each and every employee believes in them. And if they don't, we make sure that we give it the right importance so that they deliver those core values in their day-to-day working. To give you guys, just cite an example, that one of our core values is respectful relationships. So we don't just say that, oh, we want our employees to respect each other and all the stakeholders in and out of the organization. Everyone from the peon to the clerk in the organization to the housekeeping staff is spoken to, is asked whether his he has been given the right treatment, he's been behaved with well, and if he has been treated with respect. So each and every one of our core values is driven within the organization, and our corporate governance is one of our primary strengths, as I believe. I mentioned earlier about the clear vision of the management as well as each and every executive to bring on board 20 new customers to diversify from just an automotive industry. And that was also a very, very challenging yet a task that we fulfilled and eventually emerged successful. Another strong point of the company is that we have very, very strong relationship with our supplier partners. They have not only supported us through the COVID-19 pandemic, but also in the challenging times that we are facing today. We didn't expect the kind of growth that we are experiencing at the moment in terms of business acquisition, in terms of upscaling our current production, taking on new customers. We did not expect what is going on today, but our supply partners have been with us from the get-go. We maintain these relationships with them, and hence they are delivering what we require today. Speaking more about our L&D practices, our employee value proposition is that we treat our employees like family. So even though I say this is a family business, there are probably very few blood relatives, to name a specific, me and my dad, who work in this business. But the family is really our core team. The average age of any employee at Mungi is 7 years. And most of the senior management team has been in the company for longer than I have. So really the family is the core team in the business, and not any blood relations. And that is what I feel has created the culture and really expanded those core values within each and every executive of the organization that we want. We have a leadership competency framework in place. Now we have a very, very structured leadership competency framework in place in document, but these skills, these competencies, these capabilities that we wanted to develop within the individuals have been nurtured slowly across the 3 decades that the business has existed. We have a large apprenticeship program. As you guys know very well, there are rampant resignations going on. There is a huge amount of attrition that we are facing in our organizations today. And looking at that, or anticipating that, 2 years ago, we enrolled for the NAPS program that the government is offering. And we have more than 200 apprentices working with us who are being trained in different departments, and also they will be appraised well, and the right individuals who will be a right cultural fit for the company will be onboarded as well at the end of their apprenticeship program. So this is also a great practice that we have incorporated over the last 2 years to mitigate the risks of attrition and resignations. And lastly, we also have a great training and dexterity program, because we are also dependent on a huge amount of blue collar workforce, which is also very, very, it's difficult to find today. The skilled manpower is difficult to find. So we have a very, very robust dexterity and training setup to upskill these employees, to multi-skill these employees, so that they are available to us when we are expanding our business. Thanks. These are some of the examples that I had just noted down to share with you people how these practices have actually been incorporated to give us the results that we are experiencing today. We have integrated forward and backward into business verticals to cater to our customer requirements. For example, we also went into backward integration into a forging unit, and we didn't just set up a forging unit as a part of our existing business. We actually took on our internal executives as shareholders in that company, so that they could also deliver the results as well as experience the benefits of being owners of a company. So like I said, the family is not just blood relations, but we also treat our employees like our family. Another example is of the technology that we absorbed in 2008. Initially, this technology in form of roll forming, we had to completely buy the setup from Taiwan. this was a customer requirement that we had back in 2008. And I've cited in the example that we had to spend about 2.5 crores to absorb this technology from Taiwan and incorporate within our day-to-day business. But then we took it up as an internal challenge that we need this technology in each and every one of our plants. So instead of making this huge investment, why not absorb this technology in-house and build this machine? Since 2008, we've been able to build 8 machines in-house at less than half the cost. So this is just an example of how the commitment of the team, treating your employees rightly and making them a part of your family and driving the culture really helps in imbibing even a technology within the organization, which may seem a mammoth task at the get-go. Innovation is driven from down up. All our workforce is constantly encouraged to give suggestions. The smallest suggestions are converted into Kaizens. Innovations are awarded so that this culture is driven into the culture of the organization. Lastly, we have a very, very good learning management system within the organization. So when business ramped up over the last 4 to 5 years, and we got every one of our employees was more occupied than expected, they couldn't give as much as time as to classroom trainings, to seminars. We realized that we need to level up on the self-learning part of things. So we incorporated a learning management system through several online digital platforms that provide trainings to individuals at their own time. And this also helps them develop themselves and, be a part of self-learning process rather than be dependent on the organization to learn. This is a little more about the role forming technologies that we absorbed that I mentioned earlier. And thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. I think we have about 10 minutes. So I would like to give the opportunity first to the audience to ask if there are any questions, given that we have very short time and you may have some questions after hearing to all the eminent speakers here. Yes, I see a couple of hands. Yeah. Can somebody please pass the mic to the audience?
Hi, my name is Vishal and I represent NHRD in Pune chapter as well as the HR professional in Pune. In the era of immersive platforms, likes of many, I don't want to take the names, but so many HR learning platforms available, which is on your fingertips, you can learn many things. How an HR professional / L&D professional keep himself or herself relevant in this era? There is a term I heard, hypercomplexity / hypercomplexity around L&D / tag professionals, especially for the L&D professional, how they can keep themselves relevant in this area.
Okay, maybe I will direct this to.
Am I audible? Okay. So, I would say technology is great, especially now, all this immersive technology, AR, VR, and all of that is fantastic. But let me tell you something. My 14-year-old son, he plays a game. It's called, I'm sure many of you here will know that it's called Minecraft. How many of you play that? Okay, lots. There's another one, a better version of it's called Roblox. It's even more crazy, even more high definition. And I was very curious and I said, I also want to play, right? And he told me, you will not understand. I said, I'll try, I'll understand. And I sat with him and spent 30 minutes trying to understand. I could not understand anything. And I played for 15 minutes and I had motion sickness. It was so dizzy, I said, I can't play this. It's too much for me, right? I think technology is like that. I think we need to figure out what, if you're trying an immersive technology with people above 40, and then thinking technology is not working, then you're wrong. I think the younger audience are looking for, they're a lot more wired differently, is what I feel. Maybe a VR
slightly-
AR model will work for younger audience than for someone like me, who will get motion sickness in 15 minutes.
I think a slight detour from whatever you responded. I think the question was around how can a L&D professional be relevant in the light of so many changes that are happening? Maybe I will request Sampada with your rich experience to maybe add to whatever he said and respond to this question.
See, I like the question. That's the answer probably. Uh, see, it's very individual. I don't think we can have one shoe fitting all. I would just say that there's so much. There's a word that Janani used about abundance. Paralyzing you. Something
Suffering of abundance.
suffering of abundance, right? I think we're sailing that boat. There's so many options available. Now, what is my frame of mind at that point in time becomes important. What is my career aspiration that I want to do becomes important. The only thing that I would say is careers are shortened. It's important that we continue to learn. There's an interesting research which I read somewhere, that for me to be able to make learning stickier for myself, while I may be doing Industry 4.0, I may be doing AI ML course, whichever course, simultaneously, it's important for me to also do a course on photography or do a course on neuroscience. Basically, it's got to be a blended piece. It could be a behavioral plus technology, immersive, whichever methodology we may use. It has to be a blended piece, and it has to be a definitive commitment that I need to have for myself. Individuals' career options are different. Like there's a movie, Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, which says that at 40, note chapo, and the end of my career. I don't know what time you want to end your note chapoing business. Whatever it is, it's important for lifelong learning. I don't think I would really go beyond that.
Thank you. Other questions? Yeah, I see few hands. Maybe the one in the white shirt there, if somebody could please pass on the mic.
Hello.
Okay.
Yeah, I think allow me to just throw some light on this gentleman's very plain and simple question. I think what's very important is that irrespective of what profession and occupation you occupy in today's time, stay humble, be curious, and have a courage to unlearn. That's what I'll submit to you.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, that's the one.
Good afternoon to all of you.
Good afternoon.
I have one question. We are in the space of life skills training. So we are talking about blended learning, deep learning, functional training, but we basically, train on 3 areas of emotional intelligence, social intelligence, and moral intelligence. We struggle in terms of digital platform when we train this because it's more of human connection. How L&D is going to look at this in future, because online, although we do, it's not so effective in terms of teaching a subject of this nature. So will L&D, look at an offline training on these areas, or it will be a blended one of online and offline?
Okay. Thank you. Anybody wants to take the shot? Do you want to talk about this, Vidita?
So I'm much younger than all of them in experience and age, but from what I've learned, I feel like when it comes to online learning or training, it doesn't always have to be something which is textual or that doesn't have a person behind the screen. Because especially the kind of LMS trainings or the platforms that we use, there's actually a person behind the screen who's available to answer questions. Even for webinars that happen overseas, there's always a person available. So they are also able to educate the individual opposite to them on the screen on emotional intelligence, or if it may be on behavioral skills, which doesn't have to be, only one dimensionally, and it's quite holistic.
Yeah, I may like to add a little more on this. The very reason that we are all here itself says that there is a dire need for us to get back that human connection. From the morning, I've been listening to a few speakers also mentioning about making many things much more humanistic. a lot of what we are doing can be automated, right? We are also talking about deep learning as a technology, which can help algorithms become much more richer with data, and therefore robots responding like human beings. If you're crying, the robots can say, hey, don't cry. I think you cried last time for this. I think we can change patterns, that can also happen. But then a real shoulder for cry cannot be given by a robot. So the biggest need that is there in front of us is actually building human skills. Maybe if I may add, how to increase attention span. I think that's going to be very difficult because across all generations, I see people are just stuck to their mobile phones. It might be okay right now, but few years from now, I think people will, in Maslow's hierarchy, they'll become bored with that also. And suddenly when they look back, there are no friends, there are no family members. So I think these are going to become very important, and for sure they'll be live, is just my prediction.
If I may add, one thing I would say is, I think the notion that if we are in person, we connect better. On an online mode, we don't have that emotional connection enough is wrong. I think that's a fundamental shift all of us have to take, because online training, you can connect even better. I don't think it's the problem with the technology. It's the way how you use the technology. Many people, I think, need education there. How to deploy technology, how to connect emotionally through technology, because I think technology tools are great, but we have to not forget the fact that you have a person on the other side, right? I think emotions are still possible. I have had sessions done across multiple geographies where I felt the emotional connect was perhaps better. So it's how you use the technology.
Okay, now there are multiple questions. I just want to let you all know that we will be around during lunchtime as well. I'm going to just take two questions, one from you and one from the gentleman from whom we pulled the mic. I was unaware, I'm sorry. So yes, please go ahead and ask your question.
So good afternoon, everyone. And it was wonderful listening to a lot of things. Just to add on the life skills piece and also the L&D piece, I started my career as a business HR. My first interview, I was asked when I started for the one that I got selected, I actually never had the answer. My question was, honey, what do you know about employee engagement? I was like, I'm hearing the word for the first time. And because of that, I got selected because they needed somebody they can mold as per their way. Okay, so that was, and when I was interviewed in L&T Infotech interview final round, I had a KT, because of which I could not get selected. And it was not that it was deciphered during this. I was like, just to be sure, I wanted my background to be, tell it in front rather than later on get thrashed out of the system in a background verification. I got deselected after being selected. So I will only say that my journey so far, so this one is, there is a book, or somebody had taken a workshop on agile breakfasts and agile dinners. That was there, and there the person, there is a group breakfast system and a learning system where you have to eat in a group and it is online. You don't have to eat it offline. So everybody has to prepare, like there was a potluck being done online, and 20 minutes, all you have to finish your everything, right? So I think life skills can easily be embedded, and I'm sure that all CHR, maybe this is not the platform, is why we have not discussed it, but we have all gone through in 2 years COVID. I think the Great Depression, 1932, 39 or 32, whatever, and now 2022, we are all living history, demonetization, then this. So, and luckily we're living in India. So we're doing a pretty well job in adapting and reinventing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for those additions. If somebody can please help getting the mic back. Yes, I remember, I'm reminded of the biryani contest that happened online when COVID hit, just to keep that engagement on. Thank you for bringing in those points.
Good afternoon, everyone. My question is more to Vidita, and I really got inspired with the journey that you have showcased about your organization, okay? And I'm sure it was not an easy journey for sure.
When we look at learning, and I think this is one thing which most of the L&D professionals also see it in their own organization. A change, when it comes to anything which is change, people don't accept this so easily. I would like to know, and maybe, even Janani and Sampada could add some of their, experiences. Like, if we put across any individual for a learning, okay, not that people take it easily. We have so many avenues. You talk about AIs, you talk about different tools, technologies, everything, but people don't go by themselves unless they come to a situation where they say that, oh shit, my job is getting redundant very soon. And now I think I have to restart my career to learn something better. What are the kind of things that you guys would have planned during your journey? And especially with it, I would love to hear from you first, because you had an amazing journey. So what kind of different thought process that you engage with your employees, especially when it looked at learning? Because I'm sure your journey was not so easy. So I would really love to hear something from you, Vidita. How was your journey on that?
Yeah, so I always share this example with my employees also, that it's a very utopian world where you have this LMS system and everybody goes home and they log into their laptops and they do their training programs and they pass the test and they apply it to their job. But what really happens is like what happens in schools, right? There are some students who ace by studying and there are some students who ace by copying. So and in an organization, you really want people to learn something and give back at their workspace. So what we have tried to do over time is that we also challenge people with tasks, with projects. We stretch their limits and supplement that with these training platforms or with certain online digital trainings, classroom trainings, which they can apply immediately into those projects or immediately into those tasks, which help us get the results as well as them to really imbibe that learning, which we talk about in the Kirkpatrick model, that, it is not only the learning and the feedback, but it's also the long-term effectiveness of the training that we want in an organization. So if you associate a certain program with a task or a project, it always helps get those results. And it also helps in identifying an individual who is high potential and who can immediately implement those learnings versus an individual who is going to just go for the learning as a picnic and, come back and not really deliver.
I think I just can add one thing that we've in all the organizations that I've worked, and I personally believe that high risk, high returns, no risk, no returns, right? The risk and the return is this. Engagement, somebody said, is a function of organizational growth and employee growth. That's the clear formula. Employee growth will happen if I'm willing to risk myself, either into newer arenas, which could be horizontal growth or vertical growth, whatever that is. If I don't do that, if I'm stuck to my own domain, if I'm stuck to my own position, my own chair, that's it. That's the end of it. I'm neither engaged nor am I growing, or vice versa. So that's, I need to take risk, I will get returns. That's what we've been doing.
Any closing thoughts on this question, Harish?
No, I would say tap into the competitive element, because I think people are easily bored today, right? And people procrastinate a lot as well. I think I was reading a study, it says people procrastinate because fear of success or fear of failure, right? And then give people mobile phone, perfect recipe, right? So you don't have any attention span, and then you want people to be fully inspired to go and do training. I don't think it's going to happen. I think what really works really well is creating a good gamification model, giving them instant recognition, and more importantly, informing them the purpose right in the beginning. I think sometimes the old school way of telling them, what is the purpose of this initiative is still the best way to get anything done, because you can give 100 other rewards and recognition. If they don't understand the purpose, they'll not do it. And people today are actually more motivated than probably 10 years ago, because they have so many different ways to learn, so many different ways to acquire knowledge. So we just need to give free space to people and tell them the goal post and let them run.
Okay, thank you. So one last addition, maybe just on the journey, because you specifically asked around the journey of each one of us. For me personally, it was like, how do you make sure you have the muscle of learning always exercised? So every year I take up one certification and I do something, and it can be totally unrelated to what I do as a job, right? Something on music, something on yoga, something on something else. Go learn swimming. I heard a friend learning guitar, and certain things have certain certifications. Certain things have, I mean, it just helps the brain to be active all the time. So I know that there is a gentleman who is so urging to ask a question. Unfortunately, we don't have time. So we will definitely connect offline and we could respond to your question. All right. Thank you so much, NHRD and BIM, for giving us this opportunity as part of this panel.
It's really an honor to listen to all the speakers. It was really insightful. To do the vote of thanks, I would request Dr. Suruchi Pandey and Mr. Neeraj Mankar to please come on the stage. At the same time, we have thought of a different way of felicitating. We are planting one tree on each speaker's name, which you can track later, the growth, and we'll be giving a certificate that will be displayed here. So that's an environmental initiative by NHRD. So big claps for the initiative. Yeah. To start with, may I request sir to please felicitate Janini ma'am, who was the moderator for the session. Dr. Suruchi ma'am to felicitate Sampada Inamdar. Ma'am to felicitate Harish Subramaniam.
I have to say something before I receive this. It's so special for me because in South Tamil Nadu, from where I'm come from, it's called Saraswati Kadaksham, which means, Ma Saraswati is seen as a god of knowledge, wisdom. And more importantly, I think, if you're a musician, right, you need to have Saraswati Kadaksham. But what is more important for those who are listening to the music, they need to have a higher level of Saraswati Kadaksham to admire and appreciate the music. So thank you so much for Saraswati Kadaksham everywhere here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Dr. Neeraj sir to please felicitate Vidita ma'am. Thank you so much, all the speakers. For track one, I request the speakers to take their seat in the first row. I request Janani to please stay on the stage. I request Aman to please come on the stage.
Namaskar, once again. I hope that you've been enjoying the session and making notes and learning from this. आपको exam में पूछा जाएगा. This is for all these people sitting here. Okay, we have a special announcement to make, and we are fortunate that we have the lady with us. You are aware of her. We are coming up with our annual conference in February. This will be hosted by our Hyderabad chapter, and more details will come from here.
Thank you. So it's just my fortune to be here as part of this conference talk, as well as given an opportunity to talk about the national conference that's upcoming. I did hear earlier today that it is the Silver Jubilee year for Balaji College, and it's the Silver Jubilee 25th National Conference as well for National HRD Network. So it's a very big thing. we all spoke a lot about how pandemic hit the world. And I must say that HR professionals were looked up to race for the occasion back then, right? Learning and development, today we are talking so much, learning and development happened on the go back then. And you might wonder, why is it that I'm again bringing back some of this? It's because we raced for the occasion, we learned, we did many things. Again, the world is moving towards hybrid, about which also you will talk, or like you will listen to from several speakers in the afternoon. The point is, after hybrid, what? Or now that everyone is coming together, what is it? How are we going to be future relevant? Or what's even the future holding for us, right? So with keeping that in mind, the National HRD Network has come up with a very apt theme, which is Decode the Future, as part of the coming conference that we are doing. This is happening on February 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in HICC Hyderabad. This is going to be different because a large conference will have several elements. You will have keynote speakers, you will have panel discussions, but what more? There are going to be best of breed showcases. There are going to be startup segments, and then people from industry and academia being there, debating, discussing, and decoding the future collectively together. There are going to be meme contests. So a lot is going to come up. You know, even as I'm speaking about it, I feel super excited. In the next 1 week or so, we're expecting the flyers to come out. And I thought it is great for us to give a prelude along with Amanji here, so that you all know that something like this is coming, and you can save the date. February 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, HICC Hyderabad. You can book your tickets. You can plan to be there, move around calendars. As soon as the registration link is on, it should be up in the internet. So please make sure you're registering and being there to decode the future collectively with us. Thank you.
And being a national conference, all the chapters are supporting. And from Pune also, we have extended our support. So sabhi log milke hum jayenge Hyderabad. Or somebody talked about biryani. We will actually have biryani there. So, okay, I'm looking forward to all your support. Thank you so much.
Aman sir, I request you to be on the stage. I request Supriya, please, to come on the stage from India's hallmark for L&D. I request Gajendra sir and Sandeep sir and Anand sir to please come on the stage.
Namaskar once again. There's one more announcement, and we are very, very proud to showcase this. बहुत ही मौका अच्छा है, L&D conference है, and ये जो हम reveal करने वाले हैं, this one of our major projects that National HRD Network is taking up. And again, we will seek your support. We will share more details. I have my colleague Supriya Kabra, who's come down from Bombay. Madam.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. May I step a little behind? Yeah? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Lovely. Ab aaya thoda maza. Namaskar, Pune. I am Supriya Kabra, representing NHRD and one of the project. So I see a room full of HR and L&D professionals. Am I right? Am I right? All right. So would you want to tell us that do you see a gap in skills versus the achievement of the skills? As in when you arrange, the previous panel was a lot talking about trainings and the development part of it. Do you see a gap there? No, yes, no, pata nahi, maybe. Kuch to bolo, dosto. Do you guys, do I reframe the question? Yeah. So we arrange a lot of trainings and skill development programs, right? Or a lot of other interventions as well. But when it comes to the result of such interventions or programs, do you see a gap there? Yes. Itna dheere wala yes tha na, bada maza aaya, right? Yeah, because now with the help of all this three wonderful gentlemen. I don't see the third wonderful gentleman. Oh, thank you so very much, ma'am. So I have a good news to share with all the L&D and HR professionals out there. We all coming together can fill this gap. Are you ready to fill with this gap with us? I don't know, bhook lagi hai. Yeah, this was louder coming from the back. So get ready when we request our chief guest, please to inaugurate India's first project where all the L&D professionals would be able to heal and fill this gap of skills versus success. May I please request you to do the honors? And ready, and 3, 2, 1, go! Presenting to you, ladies and gentlemen, IHLD, India's hallmark for learning and development, a small attempt by NHRD Pune and Cosmic Consultants coming together, bringing in IHLD for you. Before I go ahead and tell you a little more about IHLD, I would want to thank all our dear guests to help us do the honors. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Thank you to each one of you. May I request all our chief guests who helped us in doing the honors to come back on the stage as we have a small token of love for you. हम थोड़ा walk करवाते हैं, madam. The way ma'am is looking at me. May I request all the chief guests to please come back on the stage. Thank you so very much. Please, a small token of love, kindly accept. वो प्यार आपने हम पे दिखाया था, अब हमारी बारी. This is from all the L&D professionals and team IHLD. Thank you so very much once again. Let's move on and understand a bit about IHLD. May I have the next slide, please? So as you guys agreed that we could see a gap in skills versus the success of all the interventions, all the efforts that we all were taking in this many years and time. So what we did, we came together and we were doing a lot of research. We were reading a lot of research reports as well on a global and international level. And we found a big gap in the amount of efforts that we are spending on skill development. And mind you, the efforts are also monetary efforts that has been spent. We were not able to get that much of result in return. And hence, to fill that gap, we got in. The next slide, please. Thank you. We got IHLD. What is IHLD? It is India's first platform for accreditation of LA for L&D professionals on their skills, talent, ability to have an impact on people and organization. So this is going to be India's first platform where all the L&D professionals would get a chance to accredit their knowledge, skills, and ability. Who should get the accreditation? So we are basically on a mission to provide accreditation to more than 10 lakh trainers, facilitators, L&D professionals globally in over 10 years. But we cannot do it without your support. Are you with us? Yeah. Are you excited to see a platform like this finally coming in India? Our very own platform by our very own people. So who should get accredited? HR professionals can get accredited, learning and development professionals, trainers, facilitators, speakers, academicians, and all the research scholars, plus my dear students and the aspiring trainers sitting back there, you can also take an opportunity to get accredited and then step into the learning and development world. And how do you do this? Please, why should you get accredited, basically? A moment. So it's because that's going to be like a hallmark of all the talent and your skills that you would be bringing to the table, right? When you already have an accreditation and a mark to talk about your knowledge and skills, the easy entry and the bigger opportunities always will knock the door. Become a talented and a marked professional who will have a preference over all the others who are not marked, who do not have anybody to support and tell that what you're saying that I am a master trainer, then there is a body to support this statement. The next thing, please. Also, you get to contribute in a lot of research papers, magazines, and a lot of such other places where you not only get to show your talent and skills, but of course, you get branding in return. And last but not the least, you also get the guides, mentors along the way so that you know where and how to reach. Yeah, my dear friends, without your support, we should not be able to do it. It's very own, our own platform. Hence requesting you to reach out to us for more inquiries. We have also put up a table where a stall where you can come and ask us more details. Thank you so very much. But before I thank you once again, would you not want to know who the brainchild is? Who is behind IHLD? Yeah. So presenting to you, the brainchild, the people behind IHLD, Mr. Aman Rajavali, Mr. Anand Khot, Mr. Sandeep Gajendra Gadkar, and I'm a small part of it. Thank you so very much for your love and looking forward to have more support from you. Thank you. Handing it over to you. Thank you so very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Supriya, and thank you all the authorities from NHRD. Supriya, thank you once again for reminding us about a lunch break. But then we are only 25 minutes away from a lunch break. May I please call upon Aruna Pavaskar, ma'am, to please come on the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. For the Deloitte paper presentation, we would now like to welcome Ms. Aruna Pavaskar on the stage. Ma'am has over 17 years of work experience, predominantly in area of learning and development. She has worked for companies such as Dun & Bradstreet, Deutsche Bank, and Oracle before joining Deloitte in 2019. She describes herself as PEP, that is passionate, energetic, and perseverant. Not only this, she wants to work towards creating a learning an organization by designing and developing strong learning frameworks and strategies that would thrive in dynamic environment. Her areas of interest include coaching, transaction analysis, and personal effectiveness. We welcome you, ma'am.
One, two, three, mic check. Can you guys hear me? Last bench, I know I'm in your way of lunch and I'm really apologetic for it. 25 minutes. I'm hoping I give you food for thought and keep you at the edge of your seat so that you all don't think about the food for the body that you require, but just give me a patient listening and maybe it will be worthwhile. That verdict you can give me after half an hour. Just a few instructions to my help who's going to help me out here. So while they set it up, firstly, thank you very much NHRDN and Sri Balaji University for inviting me here. Really means a lot to me. And to every one of you that you agreed to prioritize this event rather than being somewhere else today. It's not easy. For all the working professionals, Saturday, Sunday are the only days when you have your me time. So thank you very much for being here. And for all the students, I know Saturday, Sundays could be other things that you wish to do, but you prioritize this event and truly humbled to be here. Yes, it's up and running. So my request to you all is I will also be using Menti and that's open on the Google Chrome. So whenever I instruct, if you could please move to Menti as well. Yeah, that's the one. And toggle between that. I know it's difficult, but I'll just see if I can do it with the slide changer. At least I can use the slide changer for my presentations. So before I get into my presentation, that's the name I've given to L&D trends that was mentioned against me as a speaker. And I feel it's reimagining the future of learning. So if you could use your smartphones, go to www.menti.com. And I'll read out the code because I don't think it's that visible. I'm not very sure. So the code is 29033769. What is that one word that comes to your mind when you hear this statement called as reimagining future of learning? One word. Are you able to enter it? You can use your smartphones, www.menti.com. Okay, thanks for that. So it's a word cloud. If you use a word more than once, obviously it's going to increase the font size. That's how it is. So I can see upskill right up at the center. So thanks for that. Digital along with upskills. So it's going with the theme that the earlier speaker spoke today. I see technology. AI, hybrid, metaverse, interesting, experiential, agile, yeah. So thanks for that and truly appreciate you all, humoring me with that Menti. I will be using certain terminologies or maybe synonyms to what you have already stated, and that's what I'm going to cover for the next 30 minutes. And we may hear something about cloud. You'll hear cricket. Yes, sport-based learning. Why just cricket? It can also be football, or for that matter, any other sport of your choice. I think Roger Federer is a living legend to learn from. All right, thanks for that. With that, I'll move to the slide. And can I operate it from here? Is that a possibility? All right. So what is it that I'm going to cover? firstly, we have to understand the context we are living in. So I'll allude to all the current affairs or the state of the workplace, I should say. After which we can look at how learning will power the decade. That's what I believe. The decade is going to be powered through learning. And last but not the least, what is it that we are trying to do right here at Deloitte, South Asia? And with that, let me move on. Few stats, okay? And instead of boring you out with when it happened, let's play the Menti again, okay? So we're going to go back to menti.com, www.menti.com. And here's a question that's going to come up for you. And it's the same passcode. So the passcode is 2903, 37 and 69. If you could go back and go to the next question. While they put up the slide, here's a few words that I want to state, right? When we talk about the current landscape, of course, I started off with recession, but a hot labor market. The other word you would have heard is the Great Resignation. 2 years ago, suddenly we went remote just overnight, both learning as well as work. And earlier this year, we came back hybrid. Now the move could be, may not be, towards work from office. I'm not sure what the verdict is for that as yet. So hybrid is what I would like to call it. Don't forget the big terminology called Great Recession. And of course, the fact that we are witnessing a global slowdown. What is going to be its impact on India? Only time will tell us. I wish I could predict. If you could go back on that Menti. Yeah, that's because we've not moved on to the next one. Go to Google Chrome and go to Menti. And you'll have to do a back to move to the next question and present it again. And that's how it goes. So while they come up with that, and there are a lot of answers right there on that slide, I'll try that game once again. If it doesn't work, we'll reduce the interactivity initially, but let me just give it one last try, whether we can use Menti. So if you go back on that, yeah, and then go to the next slide, you'll go to the next question. Okay, it's okay. All right, let's go ahead. Yes, thanks for that. And if you go to the next question, it'll ask you the next one. And here's the question for the entire group, right? Present it so it opens in the larger window. And it's the same passcode, 29033769. And the question to you is, what do you think are the top 3 reasons for choosing an employer? And this, I will allude to the Deloitte Millennial and Gen Z survey that came up in 2022. There are top 3 reasons for choosing an employer. And let me call it out in case you cannot hear it clearly. The reasons could be work-life balance, L&D opportunities, pay, as well as travel opportunities. What do you think are the top 3 reasons? And obviously there is a wrong answer here. All right. I like the answers that are coming. The first one is definitely right. Most of you seem to be millennials here. Yes, it is definitely work-life balance. The second one is actually L&D opportunities and not pay. So the top 3 reasons for a Gen Z or a millennial, as per the Deloitte survey, is that, well, first, of course, is the work-life balance. Second is the L&D opportunities. And third is the pay package. Then obviously you will ask, what are the top 3 reasons that people leave an employer, right? So with that, we'll move to my presentation. And I think I've kind of woken you all up with the Menti, and I'll move here. So the top 3 reasons to leave would be pay, mental health, and burnout. That's what the Deloitte 2022 report had to say. We should also hear where we are in this market, right? You could help me? Click on that, because I'm not able to do it from here. Just click on the slide. All right, thanks for that. You know, the dynamism that we are living in is really great. That job posting which says greater than 33% growth in the job market is actually May 2022 report. And right here we are in December with the global slowdown. I'm not very sure if that's the number that we are still looking at. But that's what the report said. A May 2022 DataQuest report said that the job posting is at a record high in India as compared to the pre-pandemic. Last but not the least is all about productivity theater that we do. We spend 67 minutes as an average worker trying to show that we are productive to our bosses and our colleagues. So yeah, that's what it is. You could move it ahead, please. Thanks. Thanks for that. Acha, yahan pe kya? All right, thanks. You would have also heard of this term called as quiet quitters. Quiet quitters are all those folks who will do just amount of work that's required for that particular role. And they'll show no enthusiasm beyond that, no more efforts and no more time. So that's your quiet quitters. Maybe you can start taking guesses right here as to who those could be. And of course, loud quitters, they are the ones that leave the organization and then trash talk about it in social media, as well as to the employees who still remain in that organization. So as per the report, it says that we have 50% of quiet quitters and 18% of loud quitters. So I don't know what to make of it, but yeah, that's the way it is. And it's a Gallup survey, incidentally. And like I said, it's about productivity theater. We are spending a lot of time trying to show that we are productive, and it is coming at the expense of our actual work. So that's what the survey had to say. And here are our favorites, millennials and Gen Zs, and of course, our women at workplace report. So the Deloitte report, which states that 75% of the millennials and Gen Zs and 65% of the women prefer working in hybrid. So then as L&D professionals, we need to ask ourselves, and the debate right now we need to have is what can go in person and what can be offline, right? Or rather online, that which can be in remote. So there are a few things we felt as Deloitte could be there in person. And here I've called it out. And they start, of course, with idea generation and idea prioritization. So it's a research which says that if you're looking at brainstorming, then the people who are in person, the chances of them doing the idea generation is much better than those doing video conferencing. Whereas when it comes to selecting ideas, even video conferencing works just fine. When it comes to the growth of professional network, that is networking, imagine all of us online and me presenting this online. I'm sure the technology transition would have been easier, no doubt about it, but the one-on-one conversation could have been missed out in an online platform. So the development of professional networks is easier when it comes to in-person. Bridging between teams and within teams, across teams, especially when you need to get work done, share insights and ideas, and within teams to do your daily tasks. Last but not the least is creative collisions, and that means having a conversation with diverse professionals who share diverse views. It's not about brainstorming, but it's more about sharing eclectic views. So that's what works very well in person. So obviously there are few things that work well remotely, and it says job satisfaction because you get to decide your time. It says quit rates. We have seen reduced quit rates, especially when we are in hybrid and work from home. And last but not the least, productivity has increased. We've also blurred our working lines, right? There's no difference now between work for home and work from home. And last but not the least, sorry for that, is apprenticeship. For all those who don't yet know what apprenticeship is, and quite a few speakers spoke about it earlier, is to observe somebody else and be under someone and learn from that person. So you become an apprentice. That happens better in person. And of course, when you want a dedicated time just for yourself to think about an idea internally, then a heads down time works better remotely. I don't know how many of you all agree to this, but if you were to just think about yourself and not somebody else, do you think any of these kind of, relate to you? Do you think a heads down time for you would be better remotely than at workplace? So raise your hands if you think a heads down time for you remotely makes more sense than at the workplace. Okay, a few hands. Thanks for that. So what is it that we as L&D professionals need to then understand, right? Why am I saying all this to you? Because our learning designs have to be based on this. If this is what generalization is based on a research, then we as L&D professionals need to start designing learning strategy plans based on these in-person and remote ways of working. So that's the first thought I want to leave you with. And like I said, I truly believe that L&D is going to power the next decade. So let's see how it's going to power the next decade. There are a few key shifts of transitions I believe would happen, and L&D is going to be the torch bearers here. And these are shifts in your workplace, work as well as workforce. So all three W's is what I'm talking about, and not just any one W. So it's the shift from jobs to skills. So the Deloitte skill-led or skill-based approach clearly states that as L&D professionals, if you focus more from jobs to skills, the chances of you identifying a better learning design or strategy for your workplace would be higher. So that's your first transition that's going to take place. The second one is from employees to workforce ecosystem. So don't forget your gig economy. It's a very big one that's coming up, already very well set in the US, and very soon, if not already come to India, at least in our organization, we have a very large workforce who are freelancers as well. So we cannot think of just employees. We need to think of workforce ecosystems, and the managers of most of the organization where gig economy or gig workforce is being used talk about workforce ecosystem and not about employees. Flexi work to flex everything, including your benefits and pay, depending upon what kind of flexi work you want. And especially the millennials and the women are looking towards flex everything. Sorry? Especially just purely based on research. All research is not true, right? And it also changes by the month that you take. Yeah, but I agree to your point. I'm sure that men would also want it. Automation to augmentation, it's no longer the robots are coming and taking our work away, but it's all about human augmentation through AI and machine learning. And last but not the least, from productivity to human performance. Now that you know that there is something called as a productivity theater, we better look at human performance, and that would start with well-being. So that's going to be the transition or the shift that we're going to make when it comes to future of work and therefore future of learning. So we truly believe that L&D as a human agenda, and what we're going to do is humanize work. And we are going to use AI, ML to augment human workforce, if I can call that. They are not here to replace us for sure, but they are here to do those jobs where, if I could generalize and say, we love creative work. I really don't want to do analytics. Don't do it. Your AI is going to do it for you, and they'll do a much better job. So you can do all the creativity. So get the human agenda in and get your AI to do your analytics. They'll be much more accurate than you. So that's what it is. And we should not forget that the shift, or rather the shift from a organizational led learning. And here I will take the example that the earlier speaker spoke about RRD when they said it is learner led. So that's an example I can give you. We will be looking at technology driven and learner led. So the people driven organization or agenda when it comes to learning. And that's how we look at most of the learning, 77% to do more learning on a smartphone or a tablet. So remember that. It's personalized just in time, if I can use that word again. And 83% of the CEOs expect a significant increase in the AI robotics. Don't forget that we spoke about upskill, reskill, and cross-skill. Don't forget that technology is going to change so much that we need a talent base that continuously upskills and cross-skills. So that's where your 70% of organizations are saying that they need a whole new talent base. And of course, the millennials are saying L&D opportunity is a reason for me to choose an employer. So this is your backdrop, remember that. And this is where we are today. So what's our role, right? So we have 4 aspects that we should look into, and it all starts with creating the vision for the future. So it starts with what is that experience you wish to give to your learner. So it's going to be design thinking based. It's going to be learner led. So think about the experience you wish to give to your learner. And that's going to vary based on their learning needs, the goals, the roles, as well as demographies, right? So those are the 4 things that you need to take into consideration when you prepare your learning strategy or your learning vision. Finally, all of this vision needs to have some sort of application. So think of the personas and think of the journeys. Any idea will only remain in the book. And as Steve Jobs said, and I will slightly revise it because it's no longer millions. Execution is worth millions. I believe it's now worth trillions. We should move with the economy. And no amount of ideas can work if we don't have a strong execution. So what's your execution plan? And that's what you're going to do. What's your delivery strategy? How much of technology is there in it? You have to decide it based on where your organization is. Some organizations have embraced it fully. Some are yet to. We are all reaching there. The intent is right. It's in the right direction. And last but not the least, your L&D capability, and that includes your team, your processes, and again, technology tools and anything else you're going to use when you start developing your learning strategy and finally your learning experience. So with that, just a short glimpse of what we do at Deloitte. Like I said, the work is changing. The workforce is changing. So let's see what impact we as Deloitte are trying to make. Please करना पड़ेगा मुझे।
I came out while at Deloitte. The feeling I got from everyone was love and admiration.
So this is our human agenda, and this is our response to Industry 5.0. And if you see what Industry 5.0 is at its core, it's the shift in the focus from economic value to societal value and from welfare to well-being. So that's what Deloitte is trying to do. And as a learning leader, our choice is to align, or rather our imperative would be to align our learning strategy to that impact the larger organization is trying to make. And that's how our learning ethos or philosophy or strategy started off. We truly believe learning powers culture, and great culture at workplace is what drives engaged professionals. So we truly believe that as learning at Deloitte, we are building the culture of the organization to have engaged workforce. We are a people-driven organization. We believe in people-first strategy. And in that, learning is one of our top priorities. And that got reinforced when the survey came out, which said that millennials and Gen Zs use L&D as the second reason for choosing an employer. So if you see our organization, predominantly we have millennials. Very soon it will become Gen Zs as well. So at a nutshell, what are the building blocks of learning at Deloitte? I'll start with the first one, and that is upskill and reskill. At Deloitte, we call 4 skill sets as the hot skills. It's globally identified. The first one is AI/ML. You yourself said that the future of learning is artificial intelligence. So we have identified it as well. The second one is cloud. So thanks for that as well, for giving me that cue on Mentimeter. So cloud is the second one. The third is cyber. We are in a world of hacks, people hacking away. So cyber is going to be also the hot skills. It already is, and it will continue to be. And last but not the least is ESG. It's funny. When I joined Deloitte, I used to think there are only universal abbreviations. And then I joined Deloitte and I realized that there are Deloitte abbreviations as well. So ESG stands for environment, social, and governance. And that's what it is. That's our 4th hot skills. And all our learning strategy, experiences, journeys revolve around these 4 skill sets when it comes to upskilling and reskilling. Remember, we are a professional services firm. Our people are our strengths, and it's us that determine the industry's trends, I should say, because at least in HR, I can clearly vouch that everybody must be going into Deloitte trends, millennial surveys, Gen Z surveys, and the women at workforce surveys to actually see what's happening as trends in L&D. So since we are going to be the game changers, then as well walk the talk. That was another word which was used earlier. So that's what our intent is towards. The second one is all about human potential. We spoke about the human agenda. So here's another framework, the roots and shoots, and it clearly denotes the tree. As a tree goes and has a strong foundation in the form of roots and moves towards the sun and the stars as the form of shoots, that's how we view human capability and potential. The strong foundation is through mindfulness and well-being initiatives. And the shoots are through your hot skills, any other human skills, life skills, as you want to call it. Those are going to be the shoots that we have. So that's our framework when it comes to human potential. culture, of course, like I said, learning drives culture, and great culture drives engaged workforce. So we have culture. Two key ones, learning experience. It's all about the learning experience. So we have a learning experience platform available with us, which enables personalized learning and just-in-time learning. So at the click of a button in your smartphone or your laptops, all you have to do is get on into that experience platform and go through the plethora of resources available at Deloitte. And believe me, we're spoiled with choices. There's an overload of insights and information within our system right there at that learning experience platform. Last but not the least, very important, we truly believe in in-person connections. We have 2 learning campuses across Delhi and Mumbai, and all the key programs happen in between these 2 cities. And the whole idea is not just about skill development. It's purely leader-led. So we have an outside-in view and an inside-out view when it comes to our learning programs at our learning campuses. Last but not the least, well-being. We call it the equation of 6 aspects: spiritual, social, physical, financial, occupational, and emotional. And as talent, the larger talent team, we ensure that we cut across all of these segments. Are we there yet spiritually? It would be work in progress. Finally, all of this is with an underlying foundation. It all starts with a career conversation with their respective manager, which leads to the kind of learning programs or experimentations they need to do. Social learning is another key aspect. We truly believe that adults learn best when they do social learning. That is by observing others' behavior and emulating our leaders. So social learning is up. And of course, coaching and sponsorship. That's the impact we are actually trying to make right here at Deloitte. Sorry. And these are the resources that I have gone through for this short presentation. I don't know whether it was short for you guys, because I know I came in way off your lunchtime, but happy to take any questions and will try my best to answer them.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is Mayuresh Dandekar from Empower Training Services. I've been observing your presentation very keenly. I think there are some fantastic points you've raised. Many congratulations for all the efforts you put in. It has been useful to us. I just wanted to ask you one thing. My observation is that pay came 3rd or 4th in the category on the left side when it comes to joining.
Pay, yeah.
Yeah. But when it comes to leaving, why
Yes.
does pay happen to be the first?
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes, it is. It is. That was the first point, actually kind of caught us at surprise as well. So many reasons, multiple reasons to it. And it especially happens at a level with say 2 to 8 years of experience, we could say. So that's where it is. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And it is perplexing.
Yeah, so it's for an employee with a medium vintage, not a very long vintage in the organization.
See, the percentages will vary.
Okay.
But yeah, you can't generalize it across levels. It's not possible.
True.
And you also can't generalize it demography wise. Of course, this is millennial and Gen Z.
My suggestion to you, just a very humble suggestion, since I run my own training company for almost 10 years, please start addressing training vendors as learning partners. It makes us feel better. Thank you.
Yeah, so we
I
call
think
them
Prateek will
training
agree.
partners,
Okay, thank
not
you.
learning partners. We call them training partners. And they are a very important part of our collaborative initiative. When I said leader-led, right? And I use the word outside in. So our training partners are the one that gets outside in view for us, whereas our senior leaders get the inside out view. So we always have a blend of our training partners and our internal leadership who does trainings. And that's our USP actually.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I have 2 questions.
sorry, one question and one observation. The question is, who were the respondents to this research? Were they all employees within Deloitte, or
No,
you went out and?
outside and across the globe, not just restricted to India.
Okay, great. So the second observation, whatever you have shown here in the report, there is a YouTuber called Ayo Shraddha.
Yes.
You might have
Yes.
heard, right?
Yeah, she has come to our organization as
Oh,
well.
she has, right? So most of her videos, what she explains about the work and the future workplace, I was seeing the same thing here. So my question is, why do we need to do such a, grind to realize or understand what we can understand from a Gen Z who has been, putting up videos out there?
And what makes you think she is not reading Deloitte report?
Yes, could be
Of all you know, she would have got the data points from there.
possible. I'll ask her.
Yes, you
Thanks.
should. Yeah, is it done? Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Aruna, for making it engaging by using Mentimeter. May I request Mr. Sapan Shrimal and Mr. RJ Sawan to please come on the stage for doing the honors.
Thank you.
Yeah. The e-certificate for a tree planted on Aruna's name is being displayed. Thank you, Sapan. Thank you, Ajay Chavan. And thank you, Aruna ma'am. Well, now we are breaking for lunch. A few instructions for the students to get the lunch properly. Those who are having green passes, those students will go to SBS Maze, which is near hostel. Those who have got white passes, they will go to Gate Maze, which is in front of BITM. And all the delegates would be going to the same place where we had the breakfast at BITM ground floor. And all of we shall be returning back sharp at 2:10, because otherwise you'll be missing a very interesting drama after the break. So we all meet after. Yeah. Students will leave from left-hand side gate on my left, and delegates would leave from right-hand side gate.
Excuse me, students, please stay back. Let the delegate leave. Students, I request to stay back. Delegates, please leave. Students, please stay back.